start, I call this hearing to order. This is the subcommittee of the Committee on Finance. And in our agenda today are the proposed budget under the fiscal year 2021 NEP of the following: Development Academy of the Philippines for 402,214,000, and our cultural agencies, NCCA 27,334,000, NHCP 213,256,000 pesos, National Library of the Philippines 153,030,000 pesos, National Archives of the Philippines 165,308,000 pesos, Commission on the Filipino Language 72,909,000 pesos, and Cultural Center of the Philippines for 327,298,000 pesos. My dear colleagues, as you know, I also chair the Committee on SDGs, Innovation and Futures Thinking, and culture is really known to be an enabler and a driver of the economic, social, and environmental dimension of sustainable development. And that is why I'm happy to have you here to join me in discussing their budget. We also hope to have any of you know, that we can to move our policy framework for all possible futures through innovation and futures thinking. So in order of presentation, I would like to start with DAP, because DAP is the only flower among the thorns, not being a cultural agency. And then after that, we will proceed with all the cultural agencies. And that's why I don't mind if you have any specific questions, but both Senator Sani and Senator Aimee did not really say that they did. So on that note, I would prefer that we proceed directly with all the presentations. But as I said, I'm flexible. There's just two other senators here, so if you want to interject, quick clarification, I will not stop you. Pero pag marami na tayo, then I will have to put a little bit more order in our line of questioning. So on that note, we are ready to proceed. First on our list is, as I mentioned, DAP. And who is making the presentation? Is it President Engelbert Caronan? Tama ho ba?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. I'll be the one presenting on behalf of the AP. Okay.
Sige, please proceed. Reminder lang to all agencies, no, I think my staff, you've had the briefing with them, no? Let's try to keep it concise lang. We can read it naman, and then I will encourage my colleagues to ask for details that they would need na lang as you go along, because there's a lot of you and we need to be mindful of our time. Thank you. Yes, sir. Proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much, ma'am, for giving us this opportunity to present DAP's budget for the 2021 fiscal year. Let me begin briefly with a description of DAP based on its charter and mandate. Presidential Decree 205, dated June 7, 1973, established the DAP. And this was never amended except on December 9, 1976, where the composition of the DAP was changed. Currently, the Board of Trustees of the Development Academy of the Philippines consists of the Secretary of the Department of Budget and Management, the Secretary of Department of Education, the Secretary of the National Economic Development Authority, the Chairman of the Civil Service Commission, the Secretary of the Department of Health, the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture, the Secretary of the Department of Agrarian Reform, the Secretary of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, the Secretary of the Department of Finance, and a representative from the Office of the President. For 2020, next slide, please. For 2021 mandated programs, we have the education and training program. We have also the locally funded projects. We also have the research and technical assistance on public sector productivity program. And we wanted to introduce the Future Readiness and Public Sector Innovation Fund, and also to top up our existing endowment fund. For the education and training program, we propose for 2021 312,809. However, for purposes of the National Expenditure Program, the approved budget is 218,068,000. However, we are requesting for a reconsideration of some previous programs, so that we are now requesting a 300,735,000. For locally funded program, we proposed the budget of 616,980,000. However, the approved budget for NEP is only 8,721,721. But we are seeking for a reconsideration of previous budgets, so that we are requesting now for 11.2 million pesos. For our research and technical assistance on public sector, we earlier proposed for 454,500,000. However, the approved budget for purposes of NET is only 175,425. We are requesting for a reconsideration of some of our previous projects, so that now we are requesting for a 285,936 budget. We are, in addition to this budget, also requesting for an additional 140 million pesos for the Future Readiness and Public Sector Innovation Fund, and also the possibility to top up our existing endowment fund to 50 million pesos. So for purposes of NEP, we have 402,214,000. But for our reconsideration, budget for reconsideration, it would be 7,887,000, 787 million pesos.
Did he freeze?
That would be the summary, Your Honor, of our
Okay.
requested budget, Your Honor.
O sige. A few quick questions lang, no? Yung sabi mo top up the endowment fund, bakit? How much is it now currently?
Currently, ma'am, we have 115 million pesos po.
Okay. And then obviously you know that I support this work on futures thinking, no? But I'll just tell you now na medyo malaki yung hinihingi nyo, especially during this time of COVID, no? So maybe you can break that down and submit na lang and come up with a more reasonable amount, because what you're asking is almost half of your current budget, and I can assure you that's not gonna happen, no? Even if you'd like to support it. So if you can prioritize and give us a breakdown, then we can see what we can do about it, okay?
Yes, Your Honor. We'll be submitting, Your Honor.
But I'd like to put on record that I'm very happy with the work that you are doing, especially in now creating a futures thinking course that are open to all, no? That's why I want to be able to support this. Now more than ever is an important time. Medyo malaki lang yung hinihingi nyo, so bawas-bawasan natin para mas madaling push. Okay?
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Sige, thank you. Team submitted na ito. Unless my colleagues have questions, please proceed. The other agencies, medyo itutuloy-tuloy na natin yon, save for a few clarifications. Okay, thank you. So next, after that, is the... Hold on, let me just check my list. NCCA, please. Chairman Nick, are you going to be... I have a note here that you will introduce the executive director who will be presenting on behalf of NCCA. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Yes. My executive director, Al Ryan, Alejandre, and Deputy Executive Director Marichu Teliano, who are this
Okay,
Good afternoon.
please proceed. Yes.
Good afternoon, our honorable senators and everyone with us this afternoon's budget hearing. Allow me, Madam Senator, to present to you our NCCA's accomplishment report in the 2021 proposed budget. So, happy museums and galleries in Indigenous Peoples Month to everyone. Next slide, please. Next slide. Sir Burns, may I ask for the PowerPoint presentation, please? On our first slide, Madam Chair, I will be discussing to you the mandate and accomplishment report of 2019 and, of course, the program alignment that we had for COVID-19 situation, the financial report, and, of course, our request and appeal and for the reconsideration. Our NCCA mandate, Madam Chair, it is pursuant to RA 7356. As we all know, it is more on the preservation, safeguarding, no, and development and promotion of the Philippine arts and culture. Basically, the overall policy making and the coordinating body and grant giving agency. For 2019 and 2020, this is indicated in our mandate and function of NCCA. We have the policy formulation and the coordination and grant giving function, no, as stated in our mandate. And for the policy formulation, Madam Chair, we have 15 passage. We work at the 15 passage of the 15 national law and the directive to include RAs and amendments, no, and many others. So one of the example here, Madam Chair, is the National Performing Arts Companies Act, and then the Manilikan ng Bayan, the Honor Code of the Philippines. We have amendment the NCCA grants, and also, Madam Chair, is an act of establishing the Philippine High School of Creative Systems. So this is around 15 our legislative measures and other policy sectoral and national and international. For the coordinating function, Madam Chair, we are able to implement around 71 collaborative projects and activities with LGU and DILG and affiliated agencies. And I will give you some highlights of the coordinating function. We have the interagency TWG on the implementation of RA number 166 po, no. And also we have a tripartite agreement, a partnership of the rehabilitation of the Metropolitan Theater. Also with the Cultura IAC, this is the interagency partnership. We have also the partnership with NCCA TASDA, NCCA DILG, NCCA NEDA, NCCA CCP, and NCCA DepEd, and many others. For the grant giving function, Madam Chair, this is implemented in the following manner. No? Una po, itong competitive grant, we have institutional program, and also we have the cultural diplomacy. For the competitive grant,
ito po yung ginagawa namin. We open the call for those qualified and as prescribed po ng NCCA. Ito po yung mga project included. We have culture and arts exhibitions. We have cultural festivals, publications. We have dance and literary arts, and many others. So we have around 1,749 number of projects, and we have approved around 1,247. So amounting, Madam Chair, amount of the project is 263 million. So meron pa po tayong amount ongoing na 135 po. For the institutional program, ito po yung mga activities po or projects na cannot be possible covered by grants. No? Some of the major institutional programs is the rehabilitation and conservation of the Metropolitan Theater, the establishment of 16 School of Living Traditions, and 6 Institute of Living Traditions. We have also National Artist Award, Gawad sa Bayan na Malilikha. And also, meron po tayong pre-cap. No? We covered around 7,268 registered cultural properties, cultural mapping. We have also creation of local cultural and arts council, and many others, Madam Chair, listed in our presentation. For the culture and diplomacy, we have around 55 bilateral cultural agreement and implemented around 84 projects. And for the Central Rizal, we have currently open around 35 Central Rizal abroad. Ito po yung aming mga list po, Madam Chair, NCCA locally funded program na realign po for the Bayanihan Hill as one. Meron pong sagaa dyan, General Fund Appropriation, GAA, amounting to 203,300,000 and 3 million po. Yan po yung mga unreleased appropriation po na reallocated by DBM for COVID initiated of the government activity, and also the 3 million for the SLT for the school living tradition. For the NEFCA, we've allocated for CY 2020 currently released allotment. We have two. First is a 5 million as our arts program as quick response for natural and human use disaster. No? 5 million, and we also have 63.8 million that is our NCCA assistance program in response to call for Bayanihan Hill as one, Madam Chair. So all in all, the total amount is 275,100,000. That is our support for the Bayanihan Hill as one, and at the same time our help and support also for the NCCA's assistance initiative. On the next slide, Madam Chair, yan po yung ating mga locally funded that is realigned po sa Bayanihan 1. It consists of yung mga assistance to artisans, contemporary arts po initiative, and many others listed on the screen amounting po sa 13 million. And also, Madam Chair, update on NCCA program po that what we do, no, just to really continue our operations and also support for our sector. So these are the NCCA program activities aligned with the new normal during the pandemic COVID situation. As I mentioned, NCCA NEFCA financial assistance to artists and cultural workers. Ito po yung mga na-displace po, Madam Chair, na wala pong talagang trabaho, at tayo po sa NCCA nagbigay po ng tulong sa kanila, no, para po masuportahan po yung kanilang mga pangangailangan. At the same time, we have a current activities and project where reprogram po to conform with the new normals. Ito po yung mga workshops natin, mga conferences, done via virtual internet po in the new format po. So, ibig sabihin po, nagpapatuloy po yung ating mga programa sa NCCA kahit na po wala pong social gathering kasi po pinagbabawal po dati, no? And I think right now some of the areas po na yung mga mass gathering is prohibited, but we still continue with our workshop through online, no, and lectures. At the same time, we have another activity. This is the padayon, no, or moving forward. Ito po yung initiative ng ating Chairman Nicolas. So this is an NCCA digital program for the new era. This is a partnership, Madam Chair, with NCCA and at the same time with the Cultural Center of the Philippines po. So nilaunch po natin ito last July. So what we do here, we feature performing arts, visual arts, literary works, and many others, no? Yung ating pagbibigay po halaga sa ating arts and culture. And also we also feature mga LGUs po natin from different provinces po. So ito po nasa Facebook and Monday, Wednesday, Friday po yung ating programa nito every hapon po. So that is our accomplishment, Madam Chair, for 2019 and 2020. And now I'd like to turn over, may I request if you will allow me to ask my Deputy Executive Director, Ms. Marichu Teliano, to present to you our proposed budget for 2021. Madam Michu. Ma'am, nakamute ka po, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. For 2021, our budget is we actually submit for deliberation two sources of budget. One is a source from the general appropriations in the amount of 29.09 million. Essentially, this covers only the salaries or the PS and the operating expenses of the commission. There, for this year, we don't have locally funded under the GAA. Under our National Endowment Fund for Culture and the Arts, which is the NEFCA or the Fund 151, we are allowed to also charge operations as per the law. So we have operations in the amount of 113 million. And the bulk of the amount is actually allocated for the project fund. Essentially, all the programs and the projects of the NCCA are charged to the endowment fund. As presented in the accomplishment report, the NCCA accomplished its mandate in the three different ways of or categories of programming. Next slide, please. So the programs of the projects under the NEFCA are on what we call as the competitive grants. Essentially, these are the programs that are our assistance to artists, communities, to organizations, into groups of programs that they themselves have designed and are seeking assistance from the government, specifically from the NCCA. And we make a call, identify priorities, and they submit proposals to us. The other component, and I have the other component is the institutional grant. Can I have the next slide? So for under the competitive grants, we already have completed the call. We have allocated an amount of 128 million, supporting 19 different sectors covering the indigenous communities, the contemporary arts, and then the cultural heritage and education. We also put assistance to some international grants, outreach programs, and support for the trainings and workshops. We also included cultural mapping in here, as that's one of the important programs of the NCCA. The other component of the NCCA program are the institutional. Uh, when we depend totally programming the resources of the NCCA for on the grants, there are areas of gaps that we see that cannot be responded to by request for grants. So example of this are maintaining and sustaining our selection and support for our Gawad Manlilikan ng Bayan and national artists, our support for the schools for living tradition, support for the deaf partnership, especially for the arts program, the training of the teachers, and also preparation of instructional materials for teachers and for the students. We also have documentation programs and, of course, yung pre-cap or the support for the registry of important cultural properties. We also have a program that supports regional cultural development programs. These are in partnership with the different regional development councils as we download some of the programs through our Philippine Development Plan. And a small component right now, especially for this year, is our support for culture and diplomacy. So, as mentioned, we have cultural bilateral agreements that are implemented by the NCCA together with the Central Rizal. And for 2021, because we're not so certain of the situation, we're allocating 20 million for that to be able to continue the programs that we have started already with Central Rizal and with some other international partners. So for 2021, our budget is 531 million, but essentially the bulk of that is coming from our endowment fund. For our appeal, because we have proposed this to be included in our NEP, we are now at the final stage of the completion of the Metropolitan Theater. And the amount that we're needing for this is 135 million, but it was not approved as per our request from DBM. However, we thought that appealing this so that we would be able to complete the theater and operate it by next year if we would be given this additional amount. And another structure that we are trying to support is that of the Mangyan Center in Mindoro, because there is an appeal from the government of Mindoro for us to help them with the Mangyan Cultural Center. And this amount to 150 million. For 2020, all our locally funded projects under the GAA were all placed into Bayanihan 1, which amounted to 190 million. Out of that, we would like to appeal if we can restore an amount of 50 million that are covering important for us projects that we would like to continue that we were not able to do for this year. Specifically, the support for the creative industries. Right now, with the rise of many those that we have identified that can really be source of livelihoods for our artists, we find it necessary that we will have a fund to be able to support creative industries. There is a new course in that had been approved by CHED, the Bachelor for Culture and Arts Education. It is a new course, and we wanted to help the universities in developing the syllabi and the curriculum and also instructional materials together with training of the teachers. That's an assistance for this program in the amount of 5 million. We also have a newly opened Likhaan Center at Intramuros, and it is one of the new programs. It is where we bring our products from the schools of living tradition for display and also for sale so that we would be able to help the cultural communities. In preparation for the 18th Venice Biennale in 2022, we would need a preparatory amount in the amount of 10 million. This one was also removed. Was We were not able also to do the documentation and development of the culture hub in Bukawi, Bulacan, and we hope we can do that for this year. And finally, the hosting of the Asia Pacific Performing Arts Network, which was not also done in 2021. Hopefully, in 2020, hopefully we'll be able to do this for 2021. That's in the amount of 10 million. So we have an appeal of 200 million for 2021. Thank you po.
I just have a clarification on the NEFCA, no, your endowment fund. I'm told by our LBRMO you don't need congressional permission to touch that, but you have to be guided by the law. And I'm looking at the law here. It says no part of the seed capital of the fund, including earnings, shall be used to underwrite overhead expenses, administration, not more than 20%, blah, 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 blah. So can you just submit to me what are your compliance with that, no?
Okay.
And out of curiosity, what is the seed? What is the seed capital ba of the fund?
The NCSA started to have seed capital of 100 million, but right now I think it has built up to 600 because annually we are receiving 10% of what we receive from TIASA is added to our seed capital.
Sige, can I see na lang the breakdown of that, no? So I can give
Yes, po,
my
ma'am.
comments on it. But
Okay.
like I said, it appears you don't need our approval, but I just want to also be sure that you're complying with the applicable law on that. Okay. Noted on your noted naman yung mga request nyo, but also please note when you mention like the Biennale, that's 2022. Hopefully makaka-travel na tayo niyan. So in terms of preparation, just break down what kind of preparations you need to be doing in 2021. But you also had something else like the hosting of the Asian Performing Arts, tama ba?
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
We will all be bound kasi by the directive of IATF kayo, all the agencies, no, if travel will be allowed. So
Yes.
I don't know. I will have to ask our chair, Senator Sani Angara, on if he has received any instructions on this, on how do we treat that, because I'm imagining if you have an event in the first quarter of the year, wala na yan. I'm pretty sure hindi na yan gagastusan. As to whether they will allow that we continue to keep or that we support travel expenses, events at the latter part of the year, I don't know. I'm not sure if there has been instructions on that. So that one is beyond my immediate control. I would also like to suggest, and I direct my comments to all the agencies presenting.
Madam Chair, also check.
Yes, Mr. Chair, sorry, what did you say? Senator Sani, it was
Sure, also about the point you raised about. I'm not too
Maybe we
sure
can-
also about the point you raised about the exhibitions. Let's take our cue. We'll ask DBM what they plan on doing with
I was thinking, sir,
that, and if it's worth investing in that.
Mr. Chair, it might be useful for us to find out before we finalize kasi sayang naman yung mga lahat ng alterations that we have to do if it turns out, kasi I know both you and I are supportive of the in cultural diplomacy and learning. So if we can find out at least kung if they even have any direction, no, on that.
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you.
Mr. Senator Sani, can you hear me? You were coming in choppy, so I don't know if it's me, but am I clear? Am I clear?
Yes po, ma'am.
I am naman. Okay, sige. Thank you, thank you, Senator Sani, for your input on that. So anyway, I also wanted to say, and I address this to all the cultural agencies, of course, subject to the chairman of the Committee on Financing, the logic in what I'm about to say. For projects, for infra projects, no, or even if it's not really infra, but it requires, even if it's, how do you call it, maybe not really infra, but it requires that you travel to other parts of the country and all. I personally would be recommending those kind of projects in less developed areas, so that as we continue to use construction as we recognize construction as a tool of a driver of economic growth, perhaps we can prioritize areas outside of the metropolitan cities that would potentially have less COVID exposures in the area, so that we take advantage of we're still able to create jobs, by continuing constructions and similar investments, but maybe not so much exposure. Because I noted the request for the Metropolitan Theater, and constructions in general is allowed. I just have a bit of reservations when they are in Metro Manila and the city of Manila and the like, where there's a lot of congestion. How do we address COVID pagka ganon? So kindly consider that, no? I mean, I'm all support for the Metropolitan Theater, but in the time of COVID, I want to continue to support infra. But how can we do it? Or maybe there are different ways we can do it in areas that are less congested. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Noted naman yung mga comments nyo, and my team naman is at your disposal. We will discuss these things further. So thank you for that, NCCA.
Thank you, Senator Pia, and the rest of the
Thank you.
senators. Thank you very much. Thank you po.
Thank you. Let's now proceed to National Library. I'll call on Director Cesar Adriano.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Senator Sani and Senator Aimee and the rest present here in this meeting. I'm going to present the budget proposal of the National Library. Can you share now? Well, yeah. Wala. Hindi ko na lumalaban. Wala pa. Okay. Okay, Madam Chair. As we all know, the mandate of the National Library is the repository of printed and recorded cultural heritage of the country. And our mission, Madam Chair, is by 2022, we shall have enhanced library facilities, relevant library resources, and dynamic services. So we are right on track with that, Madam Chair. Actually, ang building po natin, ang renovation is 97% done. And we are focusing now on the upgrading of our facilities. For your information, Madam Chair, despite sa very low budget ng National Library, we were still able to realign for the Bayanihan. We heal as one act. We were able to realign a total of Hindi lumalabas dito. Next mo. Okay. A total of 50,642,000. 15 million of that comes from our MOE and the 35 million is from the capital outlay. For 2021, Madam Chair, the DBM recommended a budget of 158,849,000 sa NEP, compared to our budget last year, which is 212,971,000. The breakdown of that, Madam Chair, is 44% of that is our personal service and MOE, which is 54.20%. Okay, next slide please. Yan, malabas na. These are our programs, Madam Chair, our regular programs. We have a total of 72,598,000 budget for this, and 30,599,000 is for our collection development programs. Ito yung pambili natin ng mga Filipiniana materials, Madam Chair, for our collection. Kasi yun po ang pinakamandato ng National Library, to buy any available Filipiniana in the market. So, ito yung budget po natin is 30,599,000. And the 18,686,000 of that, Madam Chair, is for our reader services and library promotional programs. Ito yung ginagamit natin sa ating mga reading rooms. Right now, Madam Chair, we shifted in availing online resources kasi nga nagka-COVID. So, medyo binawasan muna namin yung pagbili ng physical books kasi naman po sarado din po yung ating reading rooms to the public. And the 4,520,000 of that, Madam Chair, is for our library services. One of the function of the National Library is to issue ISBN, ISSN, and ISMN, and the copyright registration. Ito po yung budget na 4,520,000. So we also have a library extension program, Madam Chair, a total of 13,504,000. Ito po yung mandate namin sa role ng National Library dapat sa mga public libraries is to provide library resources for their initial allocation. Napakababa po nito, Madam Chair. Lalo na ngayon, last 2 years ago, we have a campaign. We were able to convince 69 public libraries to establish. Ngayon po, itong 10 million parang ilan lang to? Hindi po kakasya. In short, Madam Chair, marami na po kaming utang sa mga public libraries na naka-establish na pero hindi pa rin namin nabibigyan ng initial allocation of books and other library resources. Next slide, please. So we also have a 3,064,000 budget for our locally funded libraries like the Bohol Congressional Library, the Batanes Provincial Library, and Tondo Congressional Library. Next slide, please. This slide is the most important one, Madam Chair. This is our request for reconsideration. The number one, as yung nabanggit ko po kanina, the resource allocation for newly affiliated public libraries. Yun nga, last 2019, Madam Chair, we have a massive campaign sa library establishment. We focus in Mindanao. And successful naman po, marami pong nag-establish ng library. Actually, 69 sila. And we promise, kasi role nga ng National Library is to provide initial allocation of library resources, ay mamimigay kami sa kanila. Pero hindi po napondohan yon at kulang na kulang po. May utang po kami sa 69 public libraries in Mindanao. So Tinotal na po namin ito para mabayaran yung utang is kailangan lang po namin ng 12,729 para sa 69 newly affiliated public libraries. 4 dyan ay municipal library, 65 ay barangay reading centers. Next slide, please. So, Madam Chair, if you can remember, last year we proposed for a security surveillance system and a climate control system. Our proposal for that is 100 million for the security surveillance system and 80 million for the climate control system. But upon the advice of your staff, gagawin na lang nating phase by phase. And we want to thank you, Madam Chair, because actually itong 20 million at itong 15 million sa climate control ay naibigay nyo na po sa amin yan supposedly this year. Pero tinamaan po ito nung binalik namin sa DBM. Actually, nag-pre-bid na kami nito. Pero yun nga, sinulatan kami ng DBM that the fund is no longer available. So, we are asking, Madam Chair, kung pwede maibalik lang sana itong ulit for next year para maumpisahan na namin yung phase 1. Kasi po, yun nga, this is for the futures of our National Library collections, Madam Chair. Ang pinakamandato namin ay pangalagaan yung mga rare collections ng National Library. Banggitin ko na lang po, meron po tayong the UNESCO Memory of the World in 2011 Presidential Papers of Manuel L. Quezon, Dr. Jose Rizal Collection, yung original manuscript ng El Filibusterismo, Madam Chair. Kailangan po yan ng climate control talaga para po hahaba pa po ang buhay niyan. We also have the Philippine Revolutionary Records. We have the Atang de la Rama, the National Artist for Theater. Those were examples of, Madam Chair, many collections inside the National Library.
Madam Chair, with the indulgence of the National Library, may I just ask something briefly?
Of course, but let me also acknowledge the presence of our Minority Floor Leader, Senator Frank Drilon. Please proceed, Mr. Chair, Sunny.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sir, I just wanted to know if all of the collections of the National Library were online.
Hindi pa po lahat, Sen.
What percent of the collections are online?
Sa rare collection ang tinatanong niyo.
No, total collections, like anything that the National Library has.
5% pa lang po, Sen.
I think that's something. Thank you for the interruption, Madam. Allowing the interruption, Madam Chair. But I believe we need to work on that. No, 5% is too low, and for people really in Tawi-Tawi to appreciate what is here in the physical premises of the National Library, it's crucial that we have a bigger online presence. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree, Mr. President. In fact, I'll also take this opportunity to say that I hope we can get the support din on the chair on the which the chair already supported actually last year itong sa climate control natin kasi for every day year that passes that hindi naiingatan ito, we risk losing them. So ako personally, I will support this. No. Thank you. Sige, please proceed. Director, may iba ka pa? You may continue.
Madam Chair, that's all for the National Library. Yan po. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sige, ako naman, my quick questions are, and you kind of answered it. You said may 12 million pesos worth of utang. No, you owe this much to the 69 public libraries that you are supporting. So that's roughly a little bit under 200,000 per library. I was curious on how much you budget for that initial set of materials that you give. Tama ba? 12 million divided by 69, so less than 200,000 per library.
Yes, Madam Chair. Meron po kaming parang listing niyan na pag provincial library, they will get 500,000 initial allocation. Merong sa city, ganito, for municipalities and barangay reading centers. Ang barangay reading centers is 200,000, Madam Chair.
Okay, sige. Give me na lang the breakdown. And
Yes.
then, in line with our Chair, Senator Sani's question, Does this already include also e-books? Automatic na ba yan dyan sa selection nyo?
Opo, meron na po.
So,
Meron pong-
pero sila ang nagsiset up nung laptop or computers, kayo lang
Kanila,
bigay ng access to the materials.
kanila po yun, Madam Chair. Meron kaming computer na ibibigay na may e-books na sa loob, may laman na.
Okay. And then are you set up in such a way that those are available online or parang special yun sa library nila? The point I'm driving at is yung access ng mga residents doon sa e-books na yun. They can only browse it through the computer, or kasi ngayon for some time I think magiging limited yung access sa libraries. Is it also available online?
May online din doon, Madam Chair. Meron din kailangan pupunta sila sa library nila.
Okay. And then naka-categorize to, may included tayo kasi I think now more than ever importante din yung materials niyo for the youth, no, yung mga nasa age ng mga pumapasok sa school kasi medyo magagamit talaga nila yan. I'm hoping that in due time magkakaroon na tayo ng safe access, no, yung pagka medyo mas mababa na yung incident ng COVID, hindi pa tayo back to normal, but maybe may mga limited numbers who can go to the libraries. So sana magamit talaga yan for the students of different levels, mula grade school until college. Naka-set up naman yung library in that sense.
Yes,
Selection.
po.
Yes? Okay.
Yes, po.
Sige, thank you. I also want to recognize Senator Nancy Binay. So thank you for that.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead,
Madam Chair,
Senator Nancy.
Yeah, just for submission lang, Director Adriano, can you just submit to the committee yung listahan kung saan ito mga barangay reading centers? Which area?
Yes.
And
Yes, Senator.
for next year's budget,
Senator.
ilan yung matatayo niya na barangay reading centers?
Kano?
Actually, what my understanding...
20 yung target namin for next year, Senator.
So sorry, we were talking about the books that you will provide to the libraries
Reading
that
center.
were already established. You said 69. So in addition to that, you are putting up 20 more. Is that correct? Kasi 20 naman ang sinagot mo ngayon kay Senator Nancy.
Just for next year. Yun yung kasing budget na binigay lang sa amin, Madam Chair. Kasi
Pero
kung
ang
lalampas
target
na kami
is-
noon,
Ang target
20.
is...
20.
Sorry, I'm confused. 20 libraries lang ang target mo every year?
For next year. Yes, halos po sa every year namin nandyan lang po nakatarget. Yun lang pong mga 2 years ago na massive campaign kami na lumampas talaga kasi ang dami pa po talagang walang public libraries. Ngayon po, kaya po marami kaming utang dahil doon sa massive campaign namin. Pero looking at our budget for next year kasi, Madam Chair, kung magka-campaign kami ulit, magiging mauulit na naman tong problemang ito na magkakaroon kami ng maraming utang sa mga public libraries.
Madam Chair, just for clarification, sorry, late kasi ako naka-login. Iba pa ba yung public library dun sa barangay reading centers?
Kasama na yun sa category na yun, Senator.
I think the difference lang that he mentioned earlier, Nancy, was the budget. So for barangay, it's a smaller amount compared
Yeah, it's
to
It's
provincial.
200,000 yung barangay reading centers, di ba? So for barangay reading centers, ilan na ito? Kasi, I mean, for me, Senpia, ito yung talagang, kumbaga, mas makaka-impact sa baba dahil down to the barangay yung reading centers, di ba? And for next year, ilan nga yung i-open nila? Ilang tagto 200,000 yung ibibigay nila for next year?
So we will send you the figures doon sa yung exact doon sa breakdown ng 1,500 plus na affiliated public libraries existing.
So is the way you are set up is every year ideally you continue to give them? Siguro naman you consider
Yes.
ideally you should be continually supporting those 1,500. But you pointed out that you have a backlog with 69 and then you have 20 more this coming year, right?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Sige. So
Okay.
maybe just complete all the details for that, including wish list and then minimum para we see the bigger picture. Okay?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you rin. Thank you. Sige, so let's move on. Thank you for that, Director. Next in line is the National Historical Commission and Chairman Rene Escalante. You have the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I loud and clear?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, good afternoon, Senators. In behalf of the National Historical Commission, I would like to present the... I'm just fixing some of my... Isa na po katatapos na po ng hearing ko sa while my staff are still fixing my materials, I would like to inform the Senate that when I assumed chairmanship 4 years ago, I inherited around 27 it's really very strange because if the current NEP will be implemented, we will not have any restoration projects at all. We understand that we are in a very difficult situation, and early this year, DBM asked us to surrender some of our proposed projects, even if they were already approved and in the pipeline because of the COVID. Just for this year, we surrendered 3 projects. I surrendered 2 projects in Iloilo and another one in Sorsogon with the promise that come 2021, all these projects will be returned. But it appears now that even those 3 projects that we surrendered for this current year, hindi rin po siya lumabas sa NEP ngayon. So, ang NHCP na lang po at ang NM ang dalawang ahensya ng gobyerno na nangangalaga sa ating mga built structures at nakakalungkot po kung ito po ay mawawalan ng pondo para po sa mga restoration projects. I heard earlier the comment of Senator Pia that this is really a very challenging period. Pero dito po sa Metropolitan Theater, just to answer the question of Senator Pia earlier, ang naging diskarte po namin dyan is yung iba pong mga trabaho na pwedeng trabahuin off-site. Halimbawa po yung paggawa ng mga acoustic treatments, yung pong mga kortina at iba pong mga decorative elements ng Metropolitan Theater, yung po ay pinagagawa na namin sa labas. At pag nayari na po ito, ikakabit na lang po natin ito sa Metropolitan Theater. Ngayon, yung atin pong mga trabahador, ay ginawa namin dyan ay pinaghati-hati namin siya sa iba't ibang kwarto ng Metropolitan Theater para po ma-observe yung social distancing. At pinayagan na rin po namin sila na tumira sa loob ng Metropolitan Theater para hindi na po sila uwi ng uwi para mabawasan po ang risk na sila po ay magka-COVID. Yan din po ang ginawa namin sa Iloilo. Kaya po itong project namin sa Sunburst, kahit po tinamaan po ito ng lockdown. Pero natapos pa rin po namin ito. At akin pong ipinagmamalaki na kahit po mayroong COVID, ay napakataas pa rin po ng aming accomplishment. Natapos po namin yung mga project namin sa Ilocos, yung restoration po ng Baccarat Church, pati na rin po yung very challenging restoration ng Poway Church ay pinapangako po na tatapusin po namin ito bago po matapos itong taon na ito. Yung Barasoin po ay natapos din namin.
Okay, on that note, I'm happy to hear that. Maybe you can give us a breakdown about on the like in particular sa Metropolitan Theater. Pero kung Metropolitan Theater, sorry, sa inyo ba yan? Kasi I read the whole thing, so I'm a little bit confused kanina. Sa NCCA ba to o sa inyo? NACA?
Senator, ang nangyari po dito, ang funding agency ay ang NCCA, puro po ang nag-implement ay interagency. Pero ang lead po dito ay ang NHCP. Ako po ang directly nagsusupervise nito.
So on that note, maybe you can give us a short note so that we can really help push this with DBM. Lalo na yung mga na-outsource, that's jobs, no? That's jobs for private sector din natin. O kasi mo Cortina, di ba? Yung mga nailalabas. Gusto ko yan and I want to push for that. So if you can break it down. And then like I said, yung mga nasa probinsya, supportive din ako dyan kasi nga outside of the metropolitan area. So break it down so that we can really help that even during this time of COVID, you can work safely.
Pwede pakilagay na sa mga projects. Yeah.
Sige.
Nasubmit ko na po ito, Madam, sa mga staff nyo at pinili na po namin dito yung mga projects na talagang kaya naming implement given the situation that we're in now.
But what I meant was, I want further details. I know you submitted it, but I want further details so that I can explain this better to DBM. Kung ano dyan yung mga part na na-outsource nyo. Kasi magandang that's where the money can go around. Mas maraming nakikinabang and then hindi nga nagkukumpulan yung mga trabahador. So, i-breakdown nyo pa ng konti. Senator Gilon, let me call on you, please. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I was just firstly, let me put on record my commendation for this agency. They have helped us a lot in Iloilo. They have restored a lot of old buildings which were falling down. And I must commend the agency. And that's why I'm in full support of their budget. And they've been performing their mandate, I must put on record. Now, I noticed that the gentleman said, Dr. Escalante said there were two projects which are included in the 2020 GAA, which were realigned because of the Bayanihan. But again, these are no longer found in the 2021 NAP. May I know what these projects are and how much are we asking for on these two projects?
Good afternoon po, Senator. Yung pong na-approve for 2020 fiscal year for Custom House is 30 million. And we have another one, the conservation of the Nicolas Loni Monument, which is 5 million. We were about to execute this. And unfortunately, nung i-award na po namin, inabutan kami ng lockdown. So, at natanggap namin yung memo na yung hindi pa na-award, ay huwag nang ituloy at ibabalik na lang daw ito ngayong 2021. But I was so surprised the promise did not materialize because we did not see this in our 2021 NEP.
May I address this to Senator Cayetano as Vice Chair? This is not a very substantial amount. 35 million for these two projects. The Iloilo Customs House, we are restoring, or the National Historical Commission is restoring only one of the three buildings in the entire country. This is similar to the Manila Customs House and the Cebu Customs House. This is the third in the entire country, which was built at the turn of the century, and we're trying to rehabilitate this so that subsequently the plan is to put up a maritime museum. So this was phase one. We do hope that the Vice Chair can consider this. This is being requested by the agency. The conservation of the Loni Monument, again, very small amount, 5 million. There's a total of 35 million from the agency for Iloilo and one for Sorsogon for 5.8 million. The total of 40 million for restoration, Madam Chair, is not a very difficult request. We do hope that the Vice Chair can consider this in her report to the Mother Committee. Thank you very much, Senator Cayetano.
If I may, Senator Cayetano, in support for what Senator Drilon mentioned, we have been engaged with the City of Iloilo for almost 3 years now, and just to inform the body.
Somebody has their, let
Paki-off.
Escalante be the only one on mute.
Ganito po kasi madam ang implikasyon if we will not approve the custom house building, mabubungi po yung aming master plan dito po sa area ng district center ng Iloilo because we are done already with a Chausti mansion and then we are done already with the care. We have improved significantly already the sunburst. Ito pong custom house na lang po ang naiiwan including the Loni monument. Yung pong stage na ginaganapan ng anong event ito sa Iloilo? Yung dinagyang ay naayos na po ito. Kaya nakakalungkot po kung hindi po ito matutuloy kasi mabubungi po yung buong programa ng NHCP. I hope it is clear.
Yes, I note nga these items were in the custom. All three were in the 2020 NEP budget, right?
Yes
And,
po, yes po.
Yeah, I guess kasi medyo we are in conservative mode now. But in principle, I really support it and you have a good track record and I personally still believe in construction as a driver of economic growth during this time. So I am supportive of this, not just actually for your project, but in general. Thank you. Sige, please proceed. Anything else that you want
Madam
to
Chair.
If I may,
Madam
Yes,
Chair.
Senator Nancy, go ahead.
Just to add dun sa sinabi nyo na sana makita din ng DBM na yung restoration ng ating heritage sites should also be part of the build program. 'Di ba? Katulad nga na nabanggit mo na isa to dun sa paraan para magkaroon ng job generation yung ating mga kababayan. Yun lang, Madam Chair.
if I may again, Senator Pia, one last thing. I just want to inform the body that I am also the Executive Director of the National Centennial Committee. This is the committee created by the President to prepare the country for the commemoration of the 500th anniversary of the victory of the Filipinos in the Battle of Pactan. If you will take a look at our original proposal, I proposed 300 million for all these activities. But because of COVID, we downsized it to as low as 170, and we were very careful in proposing only those projects that we can execute. Ang pinaka-flagship project po namin sana dito na sana po matulungan nyo kaming may patupad, ito pong plano namin na magsagawa ng Lapu-Lapu Museum sa Lapu-Lapu City. Dahil po sa tingin namin, ito pong pagunitan natin ng ika-500 anibersaryo ng tagumpay ni Lapu-Lapu ay napakaangkop na panahon para ibigay po natin sa kanya ang parangal na hindi po napagbigay ng mga nakaraang panahon. Mababalanse rin po natin dito ang mga museo natin. Halimbawa, kay Rizal po, meron po tayong 3. Kay Bonifacio, meron din po tayong 3. At kay Aguinaldo, meron din po tayong 3 museo. Puro kay Lapu-Lapu po, ni isa wala. So, sana po ay matulungan niyo ang NHCP at ang NQC na matupad po ito ang aming pangarap na magkaroon ng isang napakagandang museo na dedicated to Lapu-Lapu sa Cebu City po in commemoration for the 500th anniversary of the victory of the Filipinos in the Battle of Pactan. Salamat po, Senators.
Noted on that. Maybe you can also give me a breakdown on what the celebration will entail and para we can also assist in guiding you and what exactly has to be prioritized. And again, I go back to my earlier statement about we will have to be guided by IATF and what kind of celebrations they would allow. So, yung
Yes.
breakdown lang nun.
Yes po, Madam. I emailed already to your staff yung original proposal namin, including the amounts and the activities, and the revised proposal, taking into account the COVID problem.
Okay, noted on that. Mr. Escalante, I think si Senator Amy has some concerns. I don't know
Opo,
if she will raise it now, but you need to discuss with her because when there is a senator with concerns, the chair would normally give them time to address their
Okay po.
concerns. So kindly discuss with her para ma-address yung concerns na yan. And I will...
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair. Nandito na ako. Opo.
Okay.
I'd like some clarification on the 23 infrastructure contracts that were not supported by documents. Marami pong findings yung COA, and I think we also have some concerns with the Poway Church that we need to settle. And for that reason, subject to the submission and conclusion of these concerns, we would like to move for the deferral of the NHCP budget po.
Yes po, Madam. We will coordinate with your office.
Thank you.
Keep us in the loop, please, so that we can also assist.
Yes.
Siyempre, ang gusto
Yeah, we
naman
will
natin,
copy furnish the office of
everybody's
Senator Pia. And then,
happy and
Yes.
satisfied, di ba? Thank you.
Thank
okay
you.
po, okay po.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Welcome. Anything else, Mr. Escalante? Are we done? Are we done with your budget? Tapos na kayo, no, Mr. Escalante? Nancy, yes, Senator
Yes.
Nancy Binay, please proceed.
Just for submission lang, kasi yung nakita ko dun sa presentation nila, parang wish list lang yung nakalagay. With their budget for 2021, for submission na lang kung ano ba yung kaya nilang gawin with the 2021 budget nila. Ano lang yung mare-restore for 2021 with their existing budget for 2021. Ilang po, Madam Chair.
Yes po, Senator. We'll do it po.
Wala ba yan sa slide nyo na prioritize nyo kung ano yung masasama? Nandito, di ba?
Nandito po lahat sa kwan. So, pwede pakiroll. Nandiyan po yung aming mga detailed proposals. Ito po yung mga sinubmit namin na hindi po napondohan.
Hindi, yung napondohan nga. Based on napondohan, para makita namin kung ano yung hindi nakasama. Ano yung nasama?
Madam, zero po kami ngayon. Zero, as in wala.
Yeah. Okay. That's right. Zero sila for the info.
Wala po. Zero.
Zero.
No.
Sige.
Okay, Madam
Zero.
Chair. Pagtulungan din nating lahat na malagyan ng pondo.
So,
As I mentioned earlier, kahit yung sinurrender namin ay babalik down, nawala din po yung tatlong yun. Pinag-uusapan namin ni Senator Drilon kanina.
Technically, Madam Chair, meron silang 2020 na projects na nakuha na ng pondo for COVID, and then for 2021, yung
Hindi siya
nakalinya na
binalik.
nila for 2021, wala ring pondo.
Yes,
So, technically,
Tama
parang
po
2
yun.
years yung pupunuan natin na budget.
Tama po yun, Senator.
So yung binigay niyo sa amin na listahan is only yung nakunan ng budget for COVID, or ito na yun?
Dalawa po yung sinubmit namin. Una yung kinuha ni COVID na gusto sana naming ibalik, at saka yung nakaprograma po namin talaga for 2021.
Okay.
Actually po yung wishlist na ito ay maiksi na po ito dahil nga po sa problema sa COVID, at alam naman namin na medyo mahirap. Kaya po yung gaya ng binanggit ni Senator Pia kanina, yung mga projects na sa tingin namin ay hindi kaya because of the pandemic, inatras na po namin ng kusa yon.
Okay. Siguro, Chair Escalante, tatanong ko lang kasi I remember during the budget hearing last year, parang nakaprogram na dapat yung simbahan sa Tumawini, Isabela. And this is not part of your wish list for 2021?
Ang process po kasi namin, Senator Nancy, inuuna po muna namin yung detailed engineering study. Kasi po yung po ang magdedetermine kung magkano ang hihingi namin sa DBM, at pati na rin po yung time frame ng project. So yung Tumawini po ay nasa pipeline, kaya lang hindi pa siya ready for execution. Kasi medyo komplikado po yung simbahan, kasi malaki po yung sira at may kalakihan din po siya. So siguro by 2022 po ito ngayon. Ongoing po ngayon yung detailed engineering study nito. Pero hindi pa po siya nakasala ngayon sa 2021.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just one question.
Salamat din po.
Just one question.
Senator Quilon, yes, go ahead.
Itong restoration of Leon Church, saan ito, Rene?
Sa Iloilo po ito, Senator.
Okay.
Kasi po, ang plano po namin dito, dahil meron po tayong utang doon sa Custom House, sa Loni, maglalagay na po ako ng tao sa Iloilo para po siya nang bahala doon sa mga ito, para hindi na po tayo magka-problema sa COVID restrictions.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Salamat.
Let's go ahead, Senator Nancy, go ahead.
Part ba ng mandate ng NHCP yung acquisition? Kasi nakikita ko lang puros restoration eh. But yung
Hindi.
acquisition,
Hindi po eh. Minsan po, tumatanggap kami ng mga donasyon from another agency. Ito pong COA building sa Iloilo, hindi po namin pag-aari yan dati. Kaya po tinatawag na COA building. Dati pong pag-aari ito ng COA. Dinonate po ito ng COA sa NHCP at convert po namin into museum. Hindi po kami bumibili ng lupa. Tumatanggap lang po ng donasyon.
pero nasa mandate nyo na pwedeng bumili. I mean, assuming na you'll get the funds.
Yeah, pwede rin po, pero hindi pa po namin ginagawa.
Kasi, Sentia, I think dapat din natin pag-aralan yan eh, yung paano natin ma-acquire yung mga heritage properties. Kasi di ba, lumalabas ngayon, mga private entities, yung mga bumibili ng mga lumang bahay. So baka this is a program that we should look into in the future. Yun lang, Madam Chair.
Magandang ideya po yan. Kaya lang po medyo may kamahalan ito. If I remember it right, ito po sanang El Hogar sa Binondo area. Na-issuean kasi namin ng cease and desist order kasi balak sana itong gibain. So nang issuean po namin ito, in-offer po ito sa previous year. For ang offer yata is almost $500 million yung cost pa lang ng property. And then if we restore it, probably will cost another 100 to 150 million. So it will end up very expensive. Ang regular appropriation po namin sa capital outlay, we are only averaging 300 to 400 million a year. So kung doon po tayo titingin sa ganun, baka hindi fair doon sa ibang mga sa ibang mga lugar na nangangailangan din ng ayuda ng NHCP. Kaya po ang kinuha namin restoration na lang para mas marami po kaming mga request na ma-accommodate po.
Siguro, Madam Chair, maganda din tignan. Baka may mga ibang government agencies na nasa kanila yung mga heritage properties, katulad nga itong sa Bureau of Customs na sa Iloilo. And for example, sa site ko na lang itong Coconut Palace. This is a property of GSIS, di ba? Baka magandang tignan, baka pwede i-donate na lang dun sa mga culture agencies natin yung asset para walang cash out, para wala kayong cash out.
Opo.
'Di ba? Baka yung mga ganitong heritage site na property na, I mean, technically it is already government owned pero ibang ahensya nga lang. Baka magandang tignan kung pwedeng i-donate or ibigay.
Well, meron din po kami, Senator Nancy, na ganyang transaction. Halimbawa sa DepEd, we regularly restore itong mga authentic Gabaldon buildings. Kaya lang po ang process namin, after we restore it, we turn it over again to DepEd for their use. So hindi po namin ito inaari.
Yes.
Diba?
Nancy?
Yes po, dun sa Iloilo.
We have done that in Iloilo.
UP Visayas po.
In Iloilo.
Yeah, Senator Delon, UP Visayas.
And UP Visayas. UP Visayas, Pia, you should see it. It's a beautiful restoration of an old building with the statue or sculpture of Moti, this Italian
Monti. Francesco Monti.
And beautiful restoration done by Mr. Escalante. Also, the old COA building. So we also restored. I realigned some of my budgets there of 40 million. We restored it. It's now a museum of economic history of the Philippines. So yes, I fully agree. If we can maneuver donations of government agency heritage buildings to the National Historical, and then they can fund the restoration. We have done it. We have done it in Iloilo, so it's not something new, Madam Chair. I would endorse that idea of Senator Binay.
Yeah, the latest po is in Sorsogon. Yung po old provincial jail ng Sorsogon, pinakonvert po ni Senator Cheese into a local museum. So, pinundo niya po.
Sinunod niya lang sa Iloilo. Our provincial jail, converting museum. Dinaya niya kami doon.
Yes po.
Naman, Senator Drilon, marami naman talagang gumagaya sa inyo sa Iloilo ngayon eh. Yan lang pa, Madam Chair.
Ang inaantay ko is magkaroon ng well, actually they already started it. Let me take that back. In the last bike festival 2 years ago that I went to, they'll take you around to historical sites, and then they'll also bring you to a place like by the river. It's not necessarily historical, but then they will play songs, local songs and all that. So I look forward to doing that again. No? That really will be like an international event, and you can do that actually all year round, not just make it a big event, but all year round people will do that, because I remember I do that in Paris. You just follow the signs and you can run on your own from Notre Dame, then you can go all the way to Eiffel Tower, just following the signs, and you can do that in Iloilo. It's not even that big. A lot of sites are closer. Yeah.
Yes.
I look forward to that.
To the national government.
Yes. Anyway, I want to address some of the questions that you all raised about acquisition. I believe National Museum does that, and Jeremy Barnes of the National Museum is actually here. His hearing is already done. Their hearing is already done. Their attached agency of DepEd, which we already heard last week, but it was at the tail end after more than 7 hours. So I think most of you had already left. Senator Nancy was able to join for a while, but I won't ask him to make a full-blown presentation because he's already made his presentation. But very quickly lang, Jeremy, just point out the restorations that you're making and some of the acquisitions. No? I remember you had very specific restorations that you wanted to target. Go ahead. Briefly.
Yes, thank you very much, Senator Cayetano. Can you hear me?
Clear.
I've tried to improve my audio since the last time. Presentation, please. Good afternoon, everyone. If it's the projects you'd like us,
not the budget, just go straight. Please. Yeah, just go straight to those projects that you're just projects you wanted to restore, not the whole budget. I think there was a couple, right?
Okay. All right. The first projects, Madam Senator, are two projects under what we call investments. The other projects are more your disaster risk reduction kind of projects. So next, please. I'm glad that the idea of acquiring heritage properties came up, because we do have our first instance of this proposed for next year. The Rocha House in Tagbilaran, Bohol. The acquisition price, including taxes, is 27 million. It's a very important heritage property for the Central Visayas. Next. So it's located in the oldest part of Tagbilaran, the capital of the province, right on the shore of the strait between the island proper and Panglao, right by the causeway. Next. Structure, all the senators present will immediately see the heritage aspect of it. Next. Well, it's a superlative example of its kind of house. It is a declared important cultural property, and the opportunity for the government to acquire this kind of houses is indeed quite rare, and at a reasonable price at that. Next. Next. East to 1831. This is in the kitchen or house. But there's reasonable grounds that it could date to at least to even the late 18th century. Next. And it's been well studied by architects and students and conservators and heritage professionals. Next. The next investment is back here in Manila, our complex in Rizal Park that was provided for under our new law, RA 11333. So this will tie in the existing large buildings in the eastern end of Rizal Park to integrate everything into a world-class museum complex, while retaining, of course, the nature of the area as a park setting. So the first phase to launch the whole thing is requested for 40 million. This is mostly underground infrastructure such as sewerage, drainage, and that kind of thing, plus some landscaping so people can start enjoying the new envisioned master plan space. Next, next, next. So this is a drone shot showing our buildings and the area of the park between them all. Next. This is a shot. So this is what we're talking about to reformat starting next year. Next. And dates that we are guided by the 1905 Burnham Plan. So with these radial avenues that will start being brought back to the area. Next. We had these radial avenues. This is the 1953 International Fair held in Manila. Next. But by the when it was first laid out, changed the Burnham layout. And to bring that back, as well as some limited additional construction, a good mix of open space and museum space. And then Senator Gordon can be assured that Lapu-Lapu will stay right in the middle, like he made me promise. So we're going to improve the setting of the Lapu-Lapu monument, as would be fitting for the 500 years, of course, next year, as well as the whole area. Then the next are 4 projects that deserve high attention. They've been affected by time or specific disasters. Next. The first is a major site affected by the Taal eruption in January. This is the Church of Our Lady of Kaysasay, just down the hill from the Taal Basilica. It's part of Taal in Batangas. Next. It's a major heritage site. It's a declared national cultural treasure. It predates the heritage town of Taal, which moved there in the 18th century. This church dates from the early 1600s. It's quite a small church, and it has intact most of the heritage elements you could expect to see in such a structure. Next. The complex, this is the well, the miraculous well of Santa Lucia, which is still attracts devotees. It's a unique structure. Next. And then the next steps going up to Taal proper, to the Basilica, known as the Hagdan. So we're asking for 50 million because of some structural damage that the church suffered in January. Next. And the details are all here. This is ready to implement. I'll just show some slides quite quickly. Next.
Senator Pia, ang ganda nung Our Lady of Kaysasay. I've never been there. It's gorgeous. And it's about the same age as Poway.
Yes, quite right, Senator Marcos. And you can see the damage here, but what we learned from Bohol, Cebu, is that this is even only the tip of the iceberg regarding how structurally compromised this church probably is from the earthquakes caused by the eruptions. So I want to assure the senators that this is ready to implement. And the amount is a modest one, 15 million, but it will address the immediate structural concerns. The church has been closed since January, so even without the COVID, it's closed to the public. Next. Then, well, Senator Marcos, I'm proud to present to you these 2 projects in Loni, the Belfry.
I missed how much. I missed how much that was, Taal.
For 15 million, ma'am.
1.5?
1.5? Sagot na ni Aimee yan.
1.5.
Nako, kayang-kaya natin yan. Ibubuli na namin si Sunny
Yes,
ang
I was going to especially address this to Senator Recto because I know Governor Mandanas is very concerned about addressing the problems with Kaysasay. Yeah.
Proceed.
To our northern Philippines, we think it's high time to address the state of the Lawag Belfry.
Yeah.
It has long been known as the sinking belfry, which already tells you that there are structural issues with the bell tower. We're requesting 8 million to try to fix its highly deteriorated state. I'll just go straight to the pictures.
Yeah, Jeremy, it's actually leaning
So
now.
of course, yes, also, ma'am. Of course, every Filipino knows the Lawag Belfry. It's very iconic. Next. But we see quite severe of the vegetal growth, the erosion of the palitada, and the consequent damage to the underlying brick walls. Next. In several places, it's really, really quite severe. There's also the added issue that the diocese is building a structure quite close to the belfry. The foundations are already made, so there's nothing we can do about it. But we'd like to do a study on the stability of the bell tower and then correct what you can see in these images. Put back the missing bricks, remove the vegetation, and see what other structural and superficial measures need to be done.
Yes,
So we're
Vice
only
Chair,
asking
that's
8
our
million
ongoing problem with
everything you can
heritage.
see on the surface. And in the process, we may generate further proposals that might go more to the structural stability. And next.
If I may, Jeremy, maybe we can have a word. Jeremy, Madam Vice Chair, I'm volunteering. Maybe we can have a word with the diocese. I think the bishop is quite open-minded so that we can come to a compromise. Sayang naman baka masira ng tuluyan. Ang problema, ang simbahan ng may-ari ng halos lahat ng lupa sa gitna ng Lawag. Kanila kasi lahat yan eh.
Opo, ma'am. I've talked with the bishop. Of course, he's very supportive of our request for the bell tower. For the development in the, like where this Lawag sign is, that open plaza that was created when some structures were demolished some years ago. Well, we persuaded him to limit it to a 2-story structure with a roof deck in the style of an Ilocano heritage building. Previously, it was 4 stories, so we've brought it down to 2. We've distanced it a little bit more from the bell tower, and then the look will be a little bit more in keeping. That's the best win-win solution that we negotiated with the diocese, ma'am. And then also in Lawag City, but out of the center, this is out past the airport near the sand dunes. Next, please. Is a watchtower that was previously unknown to the national agencies.
Is that the one
Because of our almost complete work on watchtowers in Ilocos Norte, including the 2 watchtowers of Curimao, the watchtowers of
Is that the one in Curimao?
Batak and Pasukin, not Batak, Bacara and Pasukin. Some local enthusiasts pointed out that there's this watchtower in Lawag in Sitio Torre of Barangay Gabu Sur.
Okay.
Next, please. Next. So that's the location to the left of the airport runway near the coast. Next. And this is
yeah.
So this is a discovery for the national agencies site, and we'd like to work with the city government to and the private owner to do such an site development to give this structure a deserved access by the public and tourists. So we're only asking for 2 million, a very modest sum to bring this tower out into the public domain for the appreciation of everyone. If left by itself, it will surely deteriorate further. It's a good example. It's actually surprising how intact it is, despite the fact all of us were ignorant about it. Next. Oriental, the equally iconic Belfry of Dumaguete. Same kinds of problems, except instead of brick, this belfry is made of coral stone, but it's suffering the same problems of uncontrolled vegetation growth and long-term neglect that has seen the stones become dislodged, eroded, etc. So this is an archival photo. The belfry today, and then the general state of it. I won't belabor it, but it's quite serious, and the belfry is not as structurally solid as it may look. So 6 million just to repair this icon of Negros.
Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair.
Our proposed projects. Together with
I know that this is a
NACP's proposals,
rerun for you.
both of our projects are the only projects for restoration of national heritage sites. So I hope that the Congress will support this limited scope regarding our heritage properties. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeremy and Madam Vice Chair. I will support any effort you have to endorse these projects. The amounts are minimal, but the cultural value is priceless. Thank you, po.
Yes, I agree. That's why I asked Jeremy to present it dahil marami silang ganito. I'd like to mention something now, and by all means, I'd love for colleagues to weigh in on this. No, this is actually in the Create Bill, Jeremy, and maybe whoever else wants to comment. One of you submitted an amendment to the Create Bill to incentivize restoration and preservation of a historical sites like this, and I fully support that. I was kind of going back and forth with DOF to explain the significance. And anyway, bottom line is I think it's okay because apparently it falls under tourism development, which is included in the SIPP. But what I wanted to know from Jeremy is when you approve a project like this, you basically still get a private contractor anyway, right? So basically, what we would be incentivizing is the business of that private contractor, and if done well, it will enable them to be more proactive also in offering their services and get hopefully cheaper. Well done, but less pricey if they get incentives. No, tama ba yung understanding ko? That's how it would work, right?
Senator Pia, can I reply? Senator Pia?
Sure.
This is-
Mr.
Yeah.
Salazar, yes.
Yeah. Siguro, Senator Pia, yung incentive na tinutukoy dito para po doon sa mga private owners who will restore their heritage structures. Ginawa po ito ng City of Manila to some heritage structures along Binondo Escolta area, that if you will restore your built structure and then finance it by yourselves, in-exempt po nila ito sa real property tax. I think this was also the practice in Silay. I'm not sure if it's in Taal. Ito po yung mga heritage zones na dineclare po namin, na kapag sila po ay nagko-comply doon sa mga standard namin at gumagastos po sila para i-maintain ito, sinicertify po namin and they are given tax incentive. Yun lang po.
Yes, I agree, Senator. Oh, nakamute po kayo, Ma'am Pia.
Yeah. So I was saying, I agree naman. I'm familiar with that setup din sa private. So dito naman sa public, go ahead, Jeremy. You wanted to comment on that?
Insofar as property tax incentives, that would go a long way to helping us in regulating the preservation of heritage. But I think the Create Bill is more for the support of enterprises going into certain areas. And I was asked about art conservators, restoration, that kind of specialized professional business. And I said there's certainly a demand for it, both in terms of restoring buildings, private or public. We do need more contractors. Right now, we're making do with a couple who have chosen to specialize a little to a certain extent, but they're still general contractors who have developed a thing for heritage. We can't really say there are actual specialized contractors. Maybe they will get a consultant uh, for certain aspects, but there's no real firms out there for the conservation of movable or immovable heritage who really only do that. But we're lucky that we do have several general contractors who are open to working with us on special projects. But there's a bigger opportunity there, and if groups of highly trained professionals, whether they're architects, conservators, researchers, all kinds of people, if there are incentives for them to form enterprises and then to bid for government projects or undertake private projects, and then help link academe with international experts, government bodies, definitely that would be a good move.
Yeah, Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Please go ahead, Senator Gilon.
Yes, Jeremy. First of all, I would like for the record to commend what you have done for the provincial.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. For what you have done for the provincial jail of Iloilo, you have converted it into a museum. And that is why Governor Cheese is trying to do the same in Sorsogon, trying to imitate us. But let me ask, are all the rooms there for that museum filled up already? Because the last time it was just only one room was occupied.
Yes, Senator. I'll ask our team in Iloilo to give you a proper update.
Yes.
But right now, the last 2 galleries are being fitted out.
Okay.
Out of the 5 galleries in that building.
Okay, so it will be fitted out. Okay. Next question, Madam Chair. I have heard with the presentations of the National Museum and the National Historical Commission. I would like to know which one does, the delineation of their authority. It would appear that they are overlapping one another. Just a clarification. When is it a project that pertains to the National Museum, and when is it a project pertaining to the National Historical Commission? I'm citing, for example, the provincial jail in Iloilo, because it became a museum, then it was rightfully done by the National Museum of the Philippines. But some other projects are not that clear. So may we know what is delineation? Because the way it was presented by Jeremy, I can already see an overlap. Would it be correct to make a delineation between the two agencies, Madam Chair?
May I be the first to jump in?
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Go ahead, Jeremy, and then after that, see Rene.
Yes, Senator Frank, thank you for the question. Dr. Escalante and I frequently asked to answer. The truth is, sir, there's always been an overlap. Ever since President Marcos created the NHI, because it all used to be National Museum. When President Marcos created NHI, he took a part of the National Museum and moved it to the new institution. And then he created National Historical Landmarks on the one hand and National Cultural Treasures on the other hand. And there's always been a gray area of overlap ever since. What I think Dr. Escalante will tell you is there's a tendency for the National Museum to focus on heritage in general, natural, cultural, our origins, our expressions through time, in all of the areas of human endeavor, from life and environment to art and practices, traditions, etc. Whereas NHCP has tended to focus more on the story of our country through our national political, not largely political history. Of course, there's no clear-cut line either, but also focusing on personalities, the great men and women of the Philippines, the movers and shakers that helped shape our destiny as a people. So that's your long-ish answer. But we take care of culture and heritage as opposed to history, is how we see it.
Jeremy,
So
I think
I'll let Rene continue the explanation, sir.
Yeah, I'll give way first to Senator Drilon before I take my side. Senator Drilon, you
well,
want to say something po?
just that explanation didn't clarify. It confirms that indeed there is an overlapping, and this should be. We're all professional. I mean, you're professional people. There's nothing personal here. It's just for better management. We're trying to clarify your jurisdictions. Both of you are very competent. I'm not saying one of you, but it's just by the very nature of your work, you seem to be overlapping each other, and this is not healthy. We must address this. That's all I'm saying. Yes, maybe, Madam, if we can give a chance to also make a response.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, there is a truth in the observation of Senator Drilon, particularly in the field of museum management and then restoration works. But as far as management of museum, I think there is a clear dividing line between the National Museum and then NHCP, because most of our museums would focus more on our heroes and other historical events, including shrines, while Jeremy is taking care of the arts and the natural history and archaeological treasures that we have. Pagdating po talaga dito sa issue ng restoration, yes, we really overlap. In fact, after the 2013 Bohol earthquake, yung pondo po na inilano ni budget ng Pinoy administration ay pinagatian po ng National Museum saka ng National Historical Commission. Pero po kahit po may ganitong mga overlap, what is helping us is Jeremy is part of the board of the National Historical Commission, so we regularly meet sometimes monthly, sometimes twice a month. So pinag-uusapan po namin, alam niya po kung ano ang mga programa ng NHCP. So kapag nalaman niya na ito ay sakop na at inassume na ng NHCP, nagigibway na po siya. And then he shares also to me what are the priority projects of NM. Kaya po hindi po nagkakaroon ng mga duplications ang aming mga proposals.
Okay, I just raised that question. If you're saying there's no duplication because you are working together well, well, in terms of really definition, I think you'll agree that there is a there is a overlap, but let us leave it that way and just pray that in the future there will always be harmony between the two heads. Otherwise, you'll have problems. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I agree with the minority floor leader. Okay naman talaga when they give way to each other. I actually assumed because I kind of knew that there seemed to be an overlap, and I kind of assumed unahan lang sa pagturo na ito yung gusto ng isa, which parang gano'n na nga, no? They just seem to agree na sige sa'yo yan, ito sa amin, or baka eto may sponsor na kami, so puno na kami, ikaw naman. But yeah, I'm happy that you work together on this, which I've observed naman. But there may need to clarify that. I'm actually reading through the law now, no? But anyway, we don't have to do that right now. Thank you for pointing that out, Senator Frank. Let's move on.
Actually, Senator Pia,
Yeah.
Senator Pia, going back to kay Sasay, meron kasi akong ongoing restoration project ngayon. The Taal Basilica is under NHCP ngayon. So, nung tinawagan pa ako ni Jeremy na pwede ba rin sa akin naman yung kay Sasay, sabi ko, okay, fine. Sabi ko, walang problema po tayo doon. So, sa'yo naman si kay Sasay. Yun lang.
And the thing is also, I think it's also important that everybody, whether they be your private donors, your supporters, and then kami sa Congress, and there's also at the lower house, that they see the whole picture. That's why I invited Jeremy to present, no? Because those who don't see the presentation of National Museum wouldn't know that what the National Museum is undertaking if they just heard from NCCA and NHCP kasi nahihiwalay si National Museum. And on that note, tagal natin to napapag-usapan bakit ka ba nahiwalay dyan, Jeremy ligaw na ligaw ka doon dapat si DAP yata ang malipat sa DepEd agency and then National Museum malipat dito because at least in terms of the hearings, you see a number of senators who are present today because they care about culture and heritage. They may not necessarily have had the chance to join dun sa DepEd hearing with National Museum their full presentation. So yun lang naman, people don't get the whole story. May echo, no? Somebody has their, yeah, there. Okay, that's better. So sige, let's move on already. You're done, Dr. Escalante?
Yes po, Senator. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next is National Archives of the Philippines Executive Director Victorino Manalo will present.
Good afternoon, Senator Cayetano, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to Senators Angara, Binay, Drilon, and Marcos. Thank you for being here for our presentation. The National Archives, can I have the slide, please? The National Archives, we always start by explaining that we have twin mandates. We both have administrative functions, but we also have cultural functions, and which is why the National Archives is part of the NCCA. But in terms of the administrative functions, we, unlike many other agencies, we need to interact or to work with every single agency in the country, because every single agency generates records, and we are in charge of records management for the whole country. So much so that no public records may be disposed without express approval of the National Archives. With regard to our mandate and functions and our coverage actually, we are not actually able to cover all that we have to cover. We are only servicing a very small part of our country. We only have 3 branches. In contrast, for example, a country that has a similar demographics as we do, such as Thailand, has about 9 regional branches for the National Archives. So we eventually are going to have to expand. We're beginning to do that now, but we're going to have to expand, and we're working on a law to revise our charter, no? And we will be presenting that to you pretty soon, no? We've been working on that during the lockdown, and we've also been working on the electronic records policy for the whole country. We've just received the inputs from our system, from other agencies that are related to electronic records, and we will be revising and finalizing the electronic records policy. No, but right now we've begun to do our expansion. We hope to. We're in for Manila. We are now looking. We have now rented warehouses, storage facilities outside of Manila, and we've now bought a building for Manila, but we've also we are about to close the purchase of a building in Mindanao. No, this is for the Mindanao Archive Center, and I'm happy to report that we have some extra money that we hope to buy a warehouse for our records in Mindanao that we will now own and no longer just rent. Unfortunately for Cebu, we still have to wait for another year to propose a purchase of a building there. We hope eventually to have more regional centers. We hope to have a regional center in Iloilo, but also in Bicol and in Northern Luzon and in different parts of Mindanao. So you can see that we really need to expand to be able to service our publics, which are government agencies, though we actually also mandated to help with private archives. Next slide, please. We also had to give up our funds, or we gladly gave up our funds because of the need, of course, as required by the Bayanihan Act and as requested by DBM. We gave up about 30 million 30 million pesos worth of projects, which included an exhibits and things like that. No? Next slide, please. Okay. This year our budget, we submitted a budget of about 625 million, and we received about a budget of about 170. No, of these, the new projects were worth about 41 million. These were the projects approved. And next slide, please. And you can see that most of these projects have to do with electronic records, no? Because we are now in the really launching. We're about to do a rollout for our electronic records policy for every single government agency. No, we're setting the guidelines and the model for how to, and also the what is the word for that? The transition mechanisms to transition your agency to be electronics, to be used in the use of electronic records, no? And so this is what the 41 million, almost 42 million consists of, no? Next slide. So we had 21 proposals and only 3 were approved. These are the proposals we are hoping for which we hope will be reconsidered. No, we're submitting for reconsideration. They come up to about 38 million pesos, and really much of it has to do with the logical outcome of what we already are working on now. Very important is number 1, which is really we've asked for supplemental budgets, and this has to do with our basic operations. We made an original request of about, I think, 7 million or 8 million. This is only half of that. Pretty much half of that was given, and we really need the other half because this covers items like rent and things like that. No, and then we've finally been able to purchase a building for our special collections. We bought a building in Otis. Our headquarters will still be in Intramuros in the Intendencia building, which we are now finalizing the conservation management plan and the archaeological survey, as assisted by the NHCP, the IA, and the National Museum. But we will need to refurbish the building we bought in Paco to the tune of about 10 million. We have counterpart agreements with the Latin American, the Hispanic archives, the Iberian Latin American archives, and they've given us funds to do digitization in the archives of Mexico and Spain, especially. But we would need to come up with counterpart funding for these projects, and that's the amount of 292,000. So remember, this is a grant that was given to us, but we're supposed to come up with counterpart funding, and this was taken out in our budget. Then we have virtual seminars. Someone was asking earlier if we had special projects for special funding for transitioning into virtual workshops and seminars, and we're happy to report that we have actually we've retained the fund for our workshops, and we're going to draw on that even for the redoing of our seminars and making them all and putting them all online, no? And then we will need to we're about to purchase before the end of the year the Mindanao Archive Center, and we still need to assess it structurally. We cannot do that because it's quite a lot of money. We cannot do that for a building which we do not own. So we need to assess the building in terms of its capacity to carry the load that we plan to bring in, which is really the the dead weight of records. No, that's why it's very hard for us to buy a building, because we have very special requirements with regard to the capacity of the building to hold weight. No, and of course we are one of the few agencies that has a Spanish program, and that's because we have a very important. We're taking care of a very important treasure, which is 18 million pages of Spanish records, which complete the world picture of Spanish records all over the world, which is why we are in a way a fulcrum in the records holdings of Spain and Latin America. No, so we need to keep on training our people to be able to speak Spanish. We're happy to note that we always pass the review of the Spanish government when it comes to choosing people to bring to Spain for the 1 month training program. We've always met their requirements, and so we've had training in Spain, but we also have it. We also continue to take classes here. And finally, we've purchased major equipment, very complex equipment, and we need to maintain them or to buy new equipment as well, so that our laboratories are at par. And that comes out to about 38 million, and this is very important that we do this, or else it will really cut short the achievements which we already have. No, next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so last year, I just want to say that we met 9 of our 10 targets. The only target we did not meet had to do with the serving of records to the public, but we couldn't really do. This is something we really can't do very much about, because it really depends on the demand of the public. No, next, next please. Okay, and then this is our performance this year, and you can imagine that many things. Many targets are still unmet because of the ongoing pandemic. Next slide, please. Now, just for a quick review of our programs, we're very happy to note that we now have a very active disaster preparedness program. We after Haiyan hit Tacloban, we realized it was actually part of our mandate also to assist agencies that were recovering from tragedies. But as we've been working with disaster-struck agencies, we found that they very often they are unable to deal with us even a month after the tragedy. So that we now realize that the better part of valor is to train them, to work with them with regard to disaster prevention. No? And that's what we've been concentrating on. All of these programs will, of course, have to transition into the digital formats, into online formats, and we are now working on that. We also have several exhibits. We've had 2 exhibits in the Ilocos area, and one of them is an exhibit on how vegan houses are products of their environments, no? And then we've been doing an exhibit. We've had an exhibit in Bohol with the connection of the Bohol landscape to the Belen, as shown by our records. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, one of the projects that we are proudest of is our workshops for local community archives. As had been mentioned in our other presentation by our colleague from the National Museum, what's very important now today for cultural agencies and for libraries, for archives, and of course for museums is the idea of inclusion. And this is precisely why we've established the workshops and the trainings for local community archives, so that people can take charge of their history. They can take their history in hand by deciding what records to go into their own archives, so that these will be the records from which their histories are written. No? So we help, we do trainings and seminars and consultations with people on how to set up local archives, local community archives, And we've done this now for vegan. We've had workshops in vegan. We've had workshops in Antique, and then also in Jimenez in Mindanao. Very often we partner. Well, in all our workshops, we always choose a site that has a national cultural treasure, a major heritage resource like vegan, or in this case Anini, which is a national cultural treasure church, and also Jimenez in Mindanao. We've now done workshops in Mindanao, Visayas, and Luzon, and we will be coming up with a manual, and so that we can then disseminate this kind of perspective. And then we continue to do our regional training workshops for records management. We have to do it every year. Because the batch of records managers keep on changing, so we do that every year. And again, this needs to migrate into a digital or an online format. Next slide, please. And then we're doing also. There was some mention of bringing our training to less accessible places. We're not quite sure. This is one activity that we're not quite sure what to call it. We call it our workshops for developing areas. We've tried to call it accessibility challenged areas, but anyway, right now we're working with developing areas. And then of course we're conducting a national inventory of records and archives. We had a big consultation early this year, and you can see that of course no one foresaw that there was going to be a problem after the big consultation, so that it was not possible to immediately put the ideas or the recommendations of that consultation with high level with the 19 executive agencies with their high level officials. We could not implement that immediately because of the pandemic. So we've had consultations with the highest officials, but also with the records managers themselves. No, next slide. I think this is the last one, but I think perhaps what we're very proud of is our initiative on archives and creative industries. Now, with the creative industries is of course the idea that the arts and creativity, the creative fields actually have an economic impact. They have a large economic impact. For example, Britain's creative industries make up 6% of its economy, and we do our own contribution to this field by setting up workshops on exhibition design. So this is a workshop for designers of exhibits, but using archival materials. So we had our pilot workshop in Bacolod, but we hope to branch out into other areas of the creative industries. For example, tourism. We hope to do a workshop on tour guides using archival materials, and another possibility would be industrial design or product design using archival materials. For example, many of our beautiful images of old houses or bridges or churches, many things here can be used for the design of products. No, even what is a very interesting field in the study of archives, archival doodles can be the source of design. No, so we're trying to in a way break the mold of archives as simply the place for old dusty documents that are of interest to mainly historians. We're pointing out that the archives are a resource. They're creative resources that can be used for the creative industries. So I think basically that's our. Is that it? Then there's one more. And we continue to do technical assistance, and then these are just selections of our projects. And we have many more. And we now do have a records transfer from. We now do records transfers from our from agencies who would like to keep their records with us. In other words, instead of every agency having to come up with a storage facility for their records, they can keep their records, their inactive records with us. And I'm happy to note that we're finally branching out with regard to our record centers. Aside from Manila, Cebu, and Davao, we finally have off-site storage in Dasmariñas, Cavite, and we will be buying one for Mindanao and hopefully someday for Cebu. No, so we're really our idea here really is to continue conserving what we have as heritage, but also to make it function, make it work for industries and for people in general, for the general public. But we're also now following an expansion program so that your national archives can really work for the nation. Marami pong salamat. Thank you.
Madam Chair, si Senator Angara po, just one question.
Go ahead, Senator Angara.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask the cultural agencies if they're part of the DTI's effort to carve out a creative industries roadmap.
Well, we've attended seminars with them, no? Right now we're doing pilots, and if the pilot is depending how successful with it, we plan to partner with agencies like the DTI.
You've attended the sessions for the creative roadmaps, Director Manalo?
I'm afraid I can't remember anymore which sessions I've attended, but I've attended workshops on creative industries.
Hosted by whom?
I'm sorry, I can't recall at this point.
Sige, I'll ask DTI to reach out to you because I like what you said
Please.
about having kind of like our culture and history being a resource. I totally agree with you, and I think it will add a richness and a texture to whatever efforts the DTI will come up with. Although I think they're a bit stuck, to be honest. No, so thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, we'll also get in touch with them. We were really planning to do that for our design and archives program.
Super, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I fully support that also. Thank you for that intervention, Chair Sunny. So, sige, let's move
Thank
on.
you. Thank you, Chair.
very much. Senator Nancy, were you raising your hand?
No questions.
Senator Senator Cayetano, may I just say something?
Yes, okay.
Yeah, very quickly, I just want to say that we hope to reach out to the National Library and partner with them when they're setting up their local, especially barangay libraries. We'd like to share our records, no, that pertain to that particular region or province with the National Library as something that they can make available in their reading centers.
That's great. Thank you. All right, sige, let's move on. Commission on the Filipino Language, Acting Chair Dr. Arthur Casanova. Please, you have the floor.
Okay, it's up to you. In fact, thank you.
Magandang hapon po.
Baka hanapin tayo mamaya.
Go ahead. Please proceed. Medyo mahina yung mahina yung
Magandang hapon po, si Dr. Arthur Casanova po to, ng Komisyon sa Wikang Pilipino.
Yes, but your audio is not as strong as everybody else's. I don't know, maybe is there something you can adjust?
Medyo may problema na po talaga, kaya mamaya po ay ipapasok ko po sa kay Commissioner Lona Flores kasi mas maganda po ang reception sa opisina. Nandun po siya ngayon. At pwede ko nga ako sa kanya ibigay na ngayon para siya po magpaliwanag kay Commissioner Lorna E. Flores po. Com Flores, kayo na po magpaliwanag, ma'am.
Magandang hapon sa ating mga kagalang-galang na senador at mga kasama sa culture agencies. Pasensya na po. Pasensya na po kasi galing si Commissioner Art Casanova sa Kongreso at kailangan siyang mag-self-quarantine kaya hindi siya makadalo dito dahil may positibo doon. So sana bigyan kami ng malawak na pangunawa para maipresenta ang aming panukalang budget sa 2021.
Start ko na home.
Okay. Hayaan ninyong unahin namin ang aming mandato. Ang Komisyon sa Wikang Filipino ay nilikha upang magsagawa, mag-ugnay at magtaguyod ng mga pananaliksik para sa pagpapaunlad, pagpalaganap at preserbasyon ng Filipino at ng iba pang wika sa Pilipinas. Ang KWF po ay nilikha noong August 14, 1991 sa Acta Republica 7104. At noong 2014, nakapagbalida ng mga wika na lahat-lahat ay 130. Ngayon, ang Filipino ay maging 131 at ngayong bago lang, dinagdagan kami, batay sa batas din, ng Filipino Sign Language. So lahat-lahat, 132 ang aming wika na sa aming atlas ng mga wika at kultura. Mga wika sa Pilipinas, pero hindi pa doon kasali ang FSL. Pero Filipino at ibang mga wika kasali na yan. Mga kasama sa hapong ito, ang amin pong bisyon ay wika ng dangal at kaunlaran. Ang misyon, itaguyod ang patuloy na pag-unlad at paggamit ng Filipino bilang wikang pambansa habang pinangangalagaan ang mga wikang katutubo ng Pilipinas tungo sa pagkaunawaan, pagkakaisa at kaunlaran ng sambayanang Pilipino.
Madam Chair. Okay.
Yes, go ahead, Senator Filon, go ahead.
I was just going to suggest that let's go to the budget rather than all the we've been going through this. But now we're going on to the budget. It's okay.
Mandates, yes. Okay, proceed na tayo sa budget, ma'am. Ayan ka na naman. Please go through it quickly, no? Kasi we still have one more agency. Go ahead.
Okay, gusto lang namin ipaalam sa ating mga kagalang-galang na senador na sa 2019 at 2020 na pondo, matapos ang National Budget Circular 580, na tapyasan po kami ng 93,343,729.07. At ang apektado nito ng mga proyekto ay ang gusali ng wika na naibigay sa amin sa pamamagitan din ng Congressional Initiative at ang Linguistic Management Information System. Nandito sa ito, ang pondo bago matapos ang NBC, makita ninyo na may 82 million plus kami, pero pagkatapos ng NBC, 59 million plus. At mayroon kaming 16 million na para may magamit kami na hiningi namin sa DBM up to December 31, 2020. Okay. Ito pong budget utilization rate, makikita natin sa 2019, 98.3%, disbursement utilization rate, 99.5%, at ikinagagalak naming ibalita na sa audit performance ng Commission on Audit, kami po ay nakasali sa top 15 na mga ahensya na under sa OP, Opisina ng Pangulo ng Pilipinas. So, at dito sa 2020 naman, first semester, budget utilization rate 41.7 at ang disbursement utilization rate is 98.5. So, yung utilization sa first SIM, understood yun kasi nabawas na ang budget. At hindi na natuloy yung mga ibang proyekto. So, ngayon, nandito yung fiscal year 2021 na NEP. Ang total po nito ay 77,107,000 kasali ang personnel services, kabilang ang retirement and life insurance premiums. So, naggawa kami ng 2021 prioritization sa budget ng DBM na ibinigay. Ang mga proyekto ng KWF ay nakakatulong sa kalusugan. Halimbawa, sa programang pagsasalin, maraming isinalin ang aming ahensya para makatulong sa DOH, RITM, PCOO, at saka sa DSWD para maintindihan. Pero kakaunti lang yung sa mga iba-ibang wika, pero karamihan doon sa Filipino para maitaguyod ang paggamit ng wikang pambansa. Then tungkol naman sa pamamahala, nandito yung Language Revitalization Program. At noong November 5, 2019, nag-author si Senador Lito Lapid ng Institutionalization of Language Revitalization Program na kung pwede ikampanya ko sa inyo mga mahal, kagalang-galang na mga senador na suportahan ninyo para sa sunod, kung maipasa na yan, hindi na kami maghingi ng malaking budget para dito. So, nandyan na yan, kasama dyan yung bahay wika at digital archiving ng mga wika, online dictionary, online na pagsasanay pang wika at institutionalisasyon ng FSL Act, yung First Filipino Sign Language. Then sa pangatlong, nakakatulong sa industriya at kabuhayan ang prioritized budget dahil nandito yung aklat ng bayan na karamihan nito ay pinapadala namin sa mga iba-ibang libraries sa Pilipinas, yung mga selected geographic areas. Pero nalilimitahan kami dahil ang budget ay maliit lamang. Then nababanggit din dito na may pambansang timpalak tayo sa balagtasan na tinatawag na rap battle. So, ang buod ng panukalang budget na ito, dahil kaunti lang nga ang aming NEP, 6 na division ang naghati-hati sa 16 million, kaya humihingi kami ng karagdagang pondo. Na lahat-lahat dyan ay may total na 27.2 million. At sana madagdagan pa yan. Na tungkol dito sa language, lahat ito, yung mga prioritized na proyekto ay may kaugnayan sa International Decade of Indigenous Languages. Na ang 2021 talaga ay mahalaga dahil ito dito sa taong ito maghahanda ang Komisyon sa Wikang Filipino. At paano ang paghanda nito? Ito ng mga hiling namin, na wishlist namin, na sana pagbigyan ninyo dahil nga dito. So yung IDL, International Decade of Indigenous Languages, ay diniklara ng United Nations dahil ito sa kailangan matulungan ang mga wika na ma-revitalize. At mayroon kaming sa 2018 to 2019, ang mapang ito ay magpapakita na ginawa namin ng pananaliksik sa linguistikong etnografiya sa Pilipinas, at may tinampo kaming dalawa kasi sa 2020 may budget na sana itong Bugkalot sa Nueva Vizcaya, Quirino, at baha sa Sug, sa Sulot, Tawi-Tawi, Basilan, Cotabato at Zamboanga del Norte, pero kasali iyon sa nawala sa amin, kaya na sabi namin na sa 2021 na lang yan ibigay sa mga researchers. Din itong programa ng pagsasalin, yun, makikita
Ma'am,
ninyo
medyo
sa
i-rush nyo lang yung presentation, no? Anyway, may kopya naman ng mga senators nito para we can wrap up. Kasi actually, I assume 2 oras lang ito eh.
Kaya nga, itong nabanggit ko na itong mga prioridad ng Komisyon sa Wika, hinihiling namin yung inyong tulong, lalo na ngayon na mayroon kaming kapasiyahan na. Ang board nagpasya na kailangan masigla ang paglahok dito sa 2022 to 2023. Pero ang 2021 talaga, ma'am, ay mahalaga. At yun lang at maraming salamat po.
Okay.
To wrap it up, itong last slide mo, habang may magtatanong, pwede mong ilagay sa last slide mo kasi ito yung karagdagang hiling, no? Yung wish list. It's a total of 27 million. Okay, so we'll look at that. But Senator Gilon, did you have a question? Please go ahead.
I have no question on the budget. In fact, I was going to move that the budget be considered submitted and tabled, of course, to plenary, Madam Chair. I have no question on the budget.
We're okay, ma'am. Bibigyan ko na lang ng kopya yung mga senador ng wish list ninyo, no? Total of 27.2 million. Nakikita ko yan. Salamat. So mag-proceed na tayo sa sunod, and that would be the Cultural Center of the Philippines. President Nick Isaso will present. Sir, please proceed.
Yan nga, yung dahil nga po yung sa ating as you know, the CCP is the premier showcase of arts in the Philippines. Founded in 1969 by Mrs. Imelda Marcos, we continue to produce, present music, dance, theater, etc. At ginawa po namin sa tulong ng congressional initiative ng Senado ay nung panahon po ni Senador Loren Legarda at nung panahon po ni Senator Sonny Angara, dinala po namin to sa iba't ibang region, sa iba't ibang probinsya, ang what we call bringing art to the people. Ano po? So if you, I would like, before I introduce my colleagues, my Vice President for Finance, Rodolfo del Rosario, and Vice President for Artistic, Chris Miliado, may I show you a short video of what we have done outside of Manila? Please, video, please.
Nakamula. Yan na kami.
Walang sound Walang sound? Wala pong sound? May sound ba? Wala. Walang sound eh. Can we ask the committee to, because it had a sound earlier.
There.
Wala pong sound eh.
Okay lang, you look good, Sir Nick. You look good in the video.
Oh, Secretariat, how do you address that, please? I cannot control that.
I don't know. I mean, the committee supposed to be. Yep.
He asked us to be.
Wala rin eh. Ano ba nangyayari dyan? Kanina meron eh. Ano ba yan? Wala ba akong iba dyan?
Meron na.
Bakit ganun? Bakit nagkaganon? Wala siya.
Meron na.
Yan.
Sa panahon ng pandemya,
masarap balikan ang magagandang pinagsamaan natin. Ang inyong mga ngiti at palakpak, yan po ang aming inspirasyon sa sining sigla.
Ang damdamin ng mga Antikenyo noon ay nag-uumapaw sa kaligayahan sapagkat nagdala ng lubos na aliw sa aking probinsya ang sining at musikang hatid ng PPO. Napukaw nito ang damdamin ng bawat isa at sa higit sa lahat, nagsisilbing kunita sa kung sino tayo sa mundong ito. Ang pride of place, identity, ika nga.
We have witnessed how the cultural center of the Philippines enabled our people outside of the national capital region to enjoy world-class performance. Not only did such outreach program entertain, it also delivered educational and inspiring performance.
Malaki po ang magagawa ng sining para bigyang sigla ang ating mga kababayan nakakaranas ng matinding pagsubok sa buhay. At mahalaga po ang papel ng Sentrong Pangkultura ng Pilipinas, hindi lamang po sa paghahatid ng pag-asa at inspirasyon, kundi gayon din sa pagpapalalim ng kamalayan laban sa COVID-19.
The outreach performance that Philippine Philharmonic Orchestra had in our city made our citizens yearn for more. And with it, we look forward to more collaborations with CCP.
I have no doubt that Sining Sigla will provide hope against despair, courage over carelessness, and competence amid complacency. Cultural activities like this shall make us go through the challenges we face. Thank you for making stronger each day from a mindset receptive to change and innovation that can only enrich our culture. Sining Sigla reminds us of the best we can ever be. Mabuhay ang likhang Pilipino.
Let me therefore congratulate the Cultural Center of the Philippines for launching the Sining Sigla, your online platform, and promoting our culture is important in preserving our identity as a people. Be assured, ladies and gentlemen, of my continued support.
Nagpapasalamat po tayo sa paglulunsad ng proyektong Sining Sigla sa online platform sa pangunguna ni CCP President, ating kaibigan Arsenio J. Lizaso, kasama po ang kanyang mga artista at kawani ng CCP.
Ang paglunsad ng Sining Sigla ay makakatulong sa ating paglikha ng spasyo para sa kooperasyon at bayanihan. Sama-sama nating pasiglahin ang isa't isa sa pamamagitan ng Sining Sigla. Mabuhay tayong lahat.
Mahalaga po ito, lalong-lalo na panahon ng pandemya, na accessible pa rin po yung ating CCP and all the wonderful creations of our very talented artists and creators. This is the soul of our nation. It is essential for nation building. Congratulations to all involved. Mabuhay po.
At sa lahat po ng mga sumuporta sa amin, maraming salamat po.
Chair Nick, naubos na yung time mo para pakinggan namin yung mga speech namin kami-kami lang. Sana nagpa-play ka na lang nung mga performing arts natin. Otherwise, nakinig pa ako sa speech ni Senator Drilon, ni Senator Angara, ni former Senator Loren. Anyway, pinapresent nyo na yung nyo, please.
Maraming salamat po.
Not to mention, parang pahabol lang yung sa akin. Ako lang yung hindi mo pinasalita.
Ma'am, hindi po kami nakarating sa inyo eh. Yan po
Okay,
yung mga lugar
sino,
na
sino
napuntahan namin.
mag-approve ng budget mo? Not that I care, okay? Not that I care, pero na-notice ko lang naman. Sige po, please proceed.
Hindi po. Yung pong mga lugar na napuntahan namin, yung pong mga nagsalita po, ano po, napunta sa Baguio, sa Davao nga po, hindi namin nakuha yung kay Mayor
Okay na,
Duterte.
hindi ako sensitive sa ganyan. Pino-point out ko lang sa para
Madam Chair, but we note the picture of the chair was extra alluring in the video.
Siyempre sa
At
staff
saka,
ko galing yun. Sa staff ko galing yan.
with Senator Manny
Madam Chair,
Angara.
nakatalaga po kami sa ano po, sa inyong bayan. Kinausap ko na po si Mayor Lino. Pero hindi po kami natuloy because of the pandemia.
So that's what I care about more naman, na makarating kayo doon. Hindi na yung mga speech namin. Sawang-sawa na kami sa
Opo.
mga boses namin.
Opo.
Sige, go ahead na. Presenta po. Presenta.
Before that, really this Sining Sigla, I can proudly assert that I had a share, I had a role in this. I think I was among the first who realigned some budget for the cultural center in order to bring this, to support this outreach. And we had a very successful outreach program in Iloilo na kinopya po ni Senator Ligarda, dinala niya rin sa Antique pagkatapos nakita niya yung magandang nangyari sa amin. But really, kidding aside that we commend our good friend Nicolas for initiating this Sining Sigla project, and it has really brought not only joy but education to the people in the provinces who would not have the opportunity to see world-class performing arts, which is made possible through the Sining Sigla project of the Cultural Center of the Philippines. So let put of record my commendation for the CCP on this.
We second that, Madam Chair. We second that.
Thank you.
Yes, and actually, I had really meant to spread into the record that we had this we had a similar discussion on this in the hearing, on the budget hearing last year, and then on the floor, Senator Drilon raised it again about how proud he was of this project and how successful it is, and you also mentioned that time na kinopya nga ni Senator Loren, and then Senator Migs also kumopya din, if I'm not mistaken. And then Senator Angara sa province also recipient. And then sunod-sunod na yon. And if I'm not mistaken, actually I know I'm not mistaken. Whatever, I think we asked, okay, what is your wish list? And he said 50 million. And I even said 100 million na lang. And I don't know, I made a joke. Sabi ko, tanggalin na lang yung budget ni somebody else on something because it's such a good project. So that's on record naman po. And I don't know, maybe the update that we will ask for is meron bang na-implement at all? Because basically, by March, we already could not be traveling. So were you able to go to any place between January and February? Because we supported this, no? And we will continue to support it. Again, subject only to whatever IATF guidelines will be on the movements in the coming, in 2021.
Ay, ako ba?
Yes, na sir, tinatanong ko lang kung nagamit nyo yung pondo, but I'm guessing na ano to malamang nabayanihan po ito no? So I doubt kung may naiwan sa inyo.
Nabayanihan po, hindi po kami nakaalis ng mga bandang February na. Pero nakapunta po kami sa Baguio with 15,000 people in the Burnham Park to witness the Philippine Philharmonic. At sa December po, kinukumbida uli kami ng Baguio. They will try to find a way for the Philippine Philharmonic and a film festival in December. I just received a call and meeting yesterday. At ang maganda po dito sa aming ginagawang pagpapalaganap ng awareness ng art sa iba't ibang lugar, marami po nakakapanood. In other words, people from all walks of life. Yung pong nasa harapon ko, tinanong ko, ano ba ang hanap buhay ninyo? Market vendor po ako. Nanonood po ng Philippine Philharmonic. Teachers, students, professors na po. Managers, governors. Welcome na welcome po kami. Hindi nga po kami po nagkaroon na ng ocular sa kay Mayor ng Ormoc, si Richard Gomez po. Hindi po kami natuloy dahil inabutan na po kami ng COVID. Pati po sa Tarlac at sa Dagupan, kasama Lingayen. Pero ang ginawa po namin, naglunsad kami nitong Sining Sigla online. Pinagpapatuloy po namin. Meron po kami ginagawa ngayong Ibong Adarna at saka Florante at Laura na ilalagay po natin sa mga eskwela. Ginagawa po namin. Ang isa pong direktor dito ay si Sian Lim. Ito po yung puppetry ginagawa namin. At meron po kaming yung tinatawag naming pagbabalik tanaw sa unang hari ng balagtasan. Ito po yung nagkaroon ng 17 performances at CCP. Nadala po namin sa Batangas, sa Bulacan, nadala namin sa Palawan po before the COVID. Yan ang pagbabalik tanaw sa unang hari ng balagtasan. Ito po yung tungkol sa balagtasan at meron din pong tinatawag na flip top. Yung pong balagtasan na yan. Yan po yung may kundiman, may music, may sayaw, at yung mga kinumpos ni Jose Corazon de Jesus. Maraming po salamat. Ngayon po, ito po ang aming ipinagmamalaking Sining Sigla sapagkat continue po kami, katatapos lang po namin, o I think ongoing pa, itong aming Jazz Stay at Home. At ang susunod dyan ay yung tungkol sa DepEd na Ibong Adarna at Florante at Laura at pagbabalik tanaw sa unang hari ng balagtasan. At sa December po, meron kaming big show. In other words, online will be the Madrigal Singers, the Philippine Philharmonic, the Bayanihan, the Philippine Ballet and Ballet Philippines, the NAMSIA, and then the UST Symphony. Ilalagay po namin online in December for Christmas. Lahat po yung gagawin namin sa December. Online po through Sining Sigla. Maraming po salamat. Gusto ko po ngayong tawagan ng aking kasama, si Chris Millado, Vice President for Artistic Director, and mabigay niya ang aming gagawin ng mga plano tungkol sa during the time of COVID sa Cultural Center. Mr. Millado, are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, okay.
Maraming salamat at magandang hapon sa lahat. Magandang hapon sa ating mga senador at mga colleagues sa government agencies, arts and culture agencies. Last September po, nag-start tayo ng celebration ng ating 50th anniversary ng CCP with much hope and collective enthusiasm as we celebrated our 50th year of inspiring and showcasing excellence in the field of Philippine arts and culture. Noong 2019 ay 15th year din po ng celebration ng mga flagship arts festivals natin which brought record-breaking attendance. One of these is Cinemalaya, and then many other festivals such as yung International Choral Competition which established the Philippines as the hub for choral performance in the Asia-Pacific region. Tayo po yung host nito at ganun din sinabayan ito ng mga commemorative events like yung commemorative stamps, the gala, and then the light and sound show. Nandoon din yung kwento na ito ni President Nick, yung pagdadala ng Philippine Philharmonic Orchestra on a national tour. Nag-sign up tayo ng 50-plus regional partners sa tinatawag natin kaisa sa Sining, which is our satellite partnership program. And then we also conducted the national consultation on art which involved various artists, companies throughout the whole country to para hand-in-hand natin na pag-usapan ano na yung magiging future ng ating collaborations with the regions with the Cultural Center. I guess to engage and connect with what Senator Engara earlier raised, we also had a very successful collaboration with the Department of Trade and Industry to launch what we called the Manila International Performing Arts Summit, which was a combined platform of major international associations, meetings, and conventions, which brought us to the attention of important venues all around Asia-Pacific as well as international promoters in the performing arts. Nandun din yung paglunsad natin ng Encyclopedia of Philippine Art, which we launched regionally. Ngayon, naabutan tayo nung pagdating ng March ng lockdown, Great Pandemic Lockdown. In fact, CCP was the first one to suspend its major activities. But immediately, the center restored its connections in spite of the great pandemic lockdown that closed down the venues in March 2020. The CCP immediately calibrated its strategies and migrated its activities online. One of our historic breakthroughs was the full-on theater festival, which became the very first in Philippine theater history na tinuloy, yung tinatawag natin na Virgin Love Fest. It is a one-act original play festival. The center immediately restored its connections with audiences and artists by providing educational and inspirational arts and culture content on its online channel. The move effectively saved hundreds of jobs in the arts sector and dramatically broadened the online reach of its programs. As CCP enters the last quarter of 2020, we have intensified programs that focus on the use of arts for healing, online education, and lifelong learning. The CCP caps its caps 2020 with Children's and Family Biennale, which will feature children and family-oriented content in the various arts. I'm sorry, I'm receiving feedback na wala daw na you're not hearing me or my slides are not showing.
I can hear you very clearly, but I haven't seen slides in a while.
Oh, okay. Let me. I'm connecting. It says here that I'm connecting, but let me just continue and catch up with slides if if my audio is clear.
Sure, please proceed. Your audio is very clear.
Okay, so as we have successfully, in regards to 2021 budget, as we have successfully shifted at least 50% of our activities online the past months, the center builds on this success by migrating at least 70% of activities online and blended platforms in 2021. And if conditions continue to limit the gathering of artists and publics in on-site and live venues. Slide, I'm trying to share this. Can I request my colleagues to share the slide on the budget since my slides don't seem to kick in? For the 2021 budget, the CCP requests for a government subsidy Okay. Can we move on to the slide on the budget, please? For the 2021 budget, the CCP request for a government subsidy of the original budget was 514.9 million, with the Department of Budget and Management recommending 327.2 million. To augment the subsidy, we hope to earn a total of 362.4 billion to be derived from sales and rental fees, an optimistic projection with the assumption that economic activities would be transitioning to the new normal towards the second quarter of 2021, and CCP venues are compliant and ready for protocols that builds on client confidence. As to uses of funds, we budgeted 273.1 million for our personal services to cover the salaries of 290 employees. We requested for a budget of 486.6 million for MOE, which includes 65 million as grants for the National Performing Arts Companies in accordance with RA 11392. This budget is essential in stimulating the content creation activities of excellent performing arts organizations in the post-pandemic. For capital outlay, we requested for a budget of 122.6 million so we can continue building renovation that focuses on prepping venues to be compliant and conducive to protocols that might define the post-pandemic in the live performing arts. This is the summary of our budget proposal. I will be requesting our Vice President for Finance and Administration to entertain questions and clarifications with this budget after this presentation. This is the last slide. It comes with thanks from the Cultural Center of the Philippines and its community of audiences, artists, cultural workers, and production people. We thank you all for your support.
The one question I want to pose is that what of your projects will be affected by the lower amount granted by NEP by BBM in the NEP? Obviously, I know that I'm assuming, I don't know for a fact, I'm assuming that the budget cuts across the board in all the agencies that the hearings that I've chaired have to do with COVID, no? Like they assume that your movements will be limited and so on and so forth. So I don't know if that's something you can quickly explain, either Chris or Sir Nick, or you can submit it in writing.
Yeah, in terms of 2021 plans, we're looking at migrating at least 70% of our original arts and cultural programs to online or blended forms. The most affected, if there's in terms of cut, if our restored budget proposal won't happen, is the implementation of RA 11392, which is the National Performing Arts Companies Act, and our capital outlay, which looks at the renovation of our building so it's compliant with post-COVID protocols. We feel that this is important because this will also give us a chance in terms of attracting possible venue lessee, so we may be able to earn and again stimulate creative industry by way of slowly bringing back live performances and gatherings at the CCP.
Okay, noted on that. Can you just clarify? I'm not sure if I have the exact amount for that, yung renovation for to be post-COVID, how do you call it, post-COVID ready?
Yeah, that's 122.6 million.
That's okay. That's the capital outlay. That's what it is.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. And then yung sa implementation of the National Performing Arts, what amount is that?
Yeah. That's the amount is 65 million.
That's the 65. Okay, can you give me a breakdown of that? This is the subsidy that you give the five yun, di ba? Tama ba? 5 categories, no?
Yes, 5 categories. Yes, it hasn't been implemented because the budget was suspended this year. So we can submit a breakdown to your office.
Yeah. Okay. And again, like I said, you might wanna help justify how it will be implemented, since we will still be in the time of COVID for a good part of next year, if not the entire year. So if there are not clear safety protocols, it might be difficult to defend. So kindly try to explain that better. Okay.
Okay, we'll do that, ma'am.
All right. Who's raising their hand? Nancy, are you raising your hand? Senator Nancy, are you?
Lang itanong for next year, may budget ba sila for that outreach program? But dapat merong yan in the context of pandemic, diba?
We have, I'm not sure if we have 2 outreach programs, one which is initiated by the Office of the President under President Nick, and we have an ongoing outreach program na nag-shift na into online collaboration. So we've shifted our resources to helping out organizations in the regions in terms of digitization, of building their online platforms, in terms of coming up with blended performances so that they continue to create work and continue to connect with their own communities in the different areas.
And for next year ba, nagkakaroon kayo ng scenario building? For example, let's say, first half or second half of the year, bawal pa din kasi wala pang vaccine. How would the performances would be for CCP?
We have right now we have two. We've been dipping into our digital archives. Medyo vast yung archives natin, and happily in the past 3 years we've been preparing for online digital resources. In fact, we're going to launch our Encyclopedia of Philippine Art online digital version this December, which is going to make an impact in terms of resources with our teachers who will need this greatly. And then we're now experimenting on blended ways of doing of creating continuing to create art and culture content. So ginagamit mo na yung stage like sound stages where we film for video online, of course observing protocols, and we distribute this on the net. And this happened in at least 3 of our major festivals recently. Yung Cinemalaya, which was quite successful in its foray into the digital online platform, as well as yung tinatawag naming Virgin Lab Fest, which had a great following among millennial writers and performers. So we hope to continue and even expand and intensify this presence online, and then of course see when we could slowly transition back into the live theaters.
Yes. Well, aside from the online, kasi di ba katulad ngayon, nauuso na ho yung for movies, di ba yung parang drive-by, ano ba yun? Yung nasa loob ka ng kotse, drive-in, yung parang nasa loob ka ng kotse while watching a movie. Are you also exploring yung something like that na open air pero with physical distancing? Is that something that you're parang considering for next year?
Yes, we are considering that. In fact, we had a couple of experimentation. Ito yung closing ng aming 50th anniversary. We had a video mapping at the front lawn, which is an open air wide lawn. And then, of course, immediately we videoed it so mas magkaroon ng broadened reach to our online audiences. In terms of drive-in facilities, there was a collaboration that was planned pero hindi umabot for Cinemalaya. One thing that we need to consider is that remember, putting up these kind of facilities will also require budgets. Now, this will require large screens, projectors. This will require setting up of the proper facilities for the wide area to transform it into a drive-in cinema. So right now, we continue to explore that possibility by partnering with private entrepreneurs, such as the ones who started it in SMOA, to see if they could also do it at the CCP.
Actually, President Chair Nick, sino ba in charge of the CCP complex? Is that under the CCP board?
Yes, CCP complex. You mean the development?
Yes, po. Is that?
Yes, the CCP board.
So the development of the complex is under the CCP board?
Yes, that's right, under the approval of the CCP board.
Okay, but you don't own the whole property, di ba po?
No, CCP owns 63, there is an available 63 hectares available for development.
In the complex?
In the complex.
Kasama, may development plan na ho ba kayo for that?
Meron na hong proposal pero na hinto because of the COVID, but it is ongoing, and the board has the report of that particular item.
Pero wala pa ho yan sa budget request nyo, no? Yung unti-unting pag-develop.
Hindi po ata magagaling sa budget request. It will have to be a probably, because that's the whole complex, it will mean billions of pesos po. Medyo palagay ko it will be a private endeavor.
So parang ganun ho yung nakikita yung the development of the CCP complex. Kasi
yes,
for example, yung folk arts, sayang
it's going to be a joint venture. Yung pong folk arts, palagay ko structurally, hindi na pwedeng pakinabangan yan. Kasi medyo, it has sunk for already about 4 or 5 inches. In other words, for the complex development, baka hindi na po gamitin yon.
Well, out of curiosity lang ho, kasi from my office, nakikita ko parang there's a development at the back of the Film Center? Ano po ba yung building na tinatayo doon?
Hindi. Yan ho, list sa Cultural Center na nagkaroon na ng, in other words, agreement yan noon pa, even before my time.
So what's that building for?
No, it is being leased by a company. Rodi is with me, Rodi Del Rosario. I think he can explain that.
Chair Lizaso, parang
Mr.
new
Rodi?
construction siya eh. Right across
Hindi, but
Philippine
that's part- Yeah.
Sofitel.
Rodi? Can Rodi hear me? No. Hindi po. Yun, that is a company that has leased that particular parcel of land from the CCP.
For what use?
Matagal na po yung kasunduan even before my time.
Yeah, but for what use? Not culturally related.
No, restaurants. Restaurants po. Rodi, are you there, Rodi? Rodi Del Rosario?
Wala kang sound, Rodi.
Rodi, I think you can explain the situation.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
That's good afternoon, senators. That's being leased right now by a group. It's actually a restaurant. The entire building is a restaurant, and beside it being constructed is a not so tall a hotel. It's a hotel which was presented to the board and eventually was approved by the board. So it's a lease which would run until 2032.
So may income po, I assume na may income ho kayo from that transaction.
Yes, Senator. We're earning income from that.
And CCP can use it for their projects.
There's a standing agreement with them that whenever we need the area, as long as there's a formal arrangement between the two parties, CCP and the lessee, we're free to use the area.
Di ba, yung income po, I mean the income you get from
yes, Senator.
lease, hindi nyo naman po yan tiniturn over sa treasury or
No. We're using that as our operating fund.
Okay.
Thank you.
Siguro, Madam
Thank you.
Chair, well, maybe it's for another hearing. Baka magandang marinig kung ano ba talaga yung balak nila pagdating dun sa redevelopment of the CCP complex. Because, di ba parang ini-envision siya as a cultural site and so magandang tignan siguro. Yun lang, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Yes, I would like to know that also. Siguro sa ibang hearing na. Okay, anyone else who has any questions for CCP? Because if there's none, then this agency is done, and I believe we have no other agency, if I remember right.
Just one question, Madam Chair. Just one for information. Can the CCP tell us the status of the lessees on the complex? Because I keep on hearing, who are the lessees right now, and do you have any problem? Are the lessees expiring? Is there any problem on their continued stay in the compound? Just as information now.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, senators?
Yes.
Okay. Right now, Senator Dillon, most of the contracts are expiring on December 31. And the problem right now is how to cope up with the present situation. So the board decided to give them reprieve for the second quarter. And then for the third quarter, a certain percentage of their contract amount shall be paid by them until the end of the year. And so it's up for them whether they would like to request for a continuance of their contract after December 31, probably depending on their situation, because they're also assessing whether it's viable for them to continue or not.
You mean
So that's the situation, right?
continued lease of the...
Yes, sir.
Will not delay it any further. Can you just submit to the committee a written report on this subject? That, in other words, who are the present lessees? When these contracts expire, what are the problem? What are the possible issues that you are facing in the next 6 months because of the pandemic? Is that possible?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Yeah, that's all, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, just a manifestation.
Go ahead, Senator Angara.
Thank you, Chair. I support the budgets of all the agencies here, and at the proper time, we'll look into the recommendations of the Chair, Senator Pia, who's been very supportive in the last year of all of these agencies. And I just wanted to share with the body that MMDA, along part of its mandate to sort of utilize the Pasig River, has hired some artists to paint murals on the side of the walls of the Pasig River. So I don't know if maybe the NCCA could recommend some of the artists who need some commissions to the MMDA, no? So there's a source of income from them, because I'm sure kahit papano yung markets for their services have been affected somewhat. I just wanted to share that, Madam Chair, and perhaps the committee secretariat can help link the two or the different agencies involved to pursue this for possible collaboration in the future. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Senator Nancy, please go ahead.
Yes, last question na lang. Dun sa CCP, they can only lease it, right? They cannot sell the properties within the complex.
They cannot.
Cannot be sold, but it can be leased on joint venture or leased, depending on the arrangement. But the land itself cannot be sold.
Cannot be sold. Because I remember nung 2010, dapat magtatayo ho yung Mega World ng 2 towers na condominium dun sa gilid ng Coconut Palace. So,
Hindi.
sana ho, wag sana natin payagan yung mga ganun.
Hindi po.
Projects for the CCP complex.
Nabanggit niyo yung Coconut Palace. Mas maganda po sana kung yan mabibigay to take care of it, ang cultural center ang pwedeng pagbigyan. Kasi nandoon pwede natin magamit.
O baka it is something, Chair Lizaso, pwede natin i-request sa GSIS na i-turn over na sa inyo yung pag-manage ng property.
Yes, that's right. That's right, Madam Senator. Pwede po yan. Maganda po.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yes, Jeremy, please.
On the subject of the Coconut Palace, and Sen Nancy has brought this up a few times already, I was the one tasked by NCCA to reach out to GSIS to start the discussion on what will become of the Coconut Palace, both in terms of its pending declaration as National Cultural Treasure, as the work of Bobby Manyosa, and also how to repurpose it for a proper cultural purpose. And one of the initiatives was to advocate that because it's in the CCP complex and a work of a national artist, that to bring it under CCP administration. So I just want to assure you that we wrote GSIS, but it got delayed up to now because of the pandemic.
Noted on that. 2 points, no? President Nick, yung CCP complex, the traffic there is not that bad compared to, just being on Rojas Boulevard. Can you look into encouraging more bikers? I know there's already bike for rent in that area, and I've also brought my bike there a few times. Maganda magligawan dyan, bike and sunset.
Pia, dyan ako natuto mag-bike.
Talaga?
Oo. Yung bike rental dyan sa tapat ng Focus Theater.
Marami ho kaming joggers dyan, at saka
Si Senator Nancy, magso-sponsor ng ng kiosk na bike ni Nancy for rent. So I mentioned that
yes.
because these are outdoor activities that I feel should be prioritized as when we and as we improve in our COVID situation, di ba? Imbis na yung mga indoor activities, yan yun. So I know maraming joggers, marami din naman nagbabike, but kindly look into it and if necessary, lagyan ng bike lanes, no? Unahan nyo na, wag nyo nang antayin yung batas namin. Yeah, may I just suggest that? That's one point. The second point I wanted to make is I just want to, you don't have to discuss it now, but I hope that you have plans in place on how you mentioned that it's possible in December you're going to go to Baguio to perform. Whatever your plans are for the next 12 months or so, kindly coordinate this carefully with IATF because I don't want you to get into trouble the way that a couple of universities have gotten into trouble by para silang nag-secret training ng kanilang mga athletes, no? So ganun din yun because no matter what you say, if you're talking about the Philharmonic, how many members are in there na kahit papaano magdidikit-dikit sila, they will practice together, they will perform together. So I just recommend that you clear all of this so that no one gets into trouble and that you can ensure the safety of your artists.
Will do po, Senator. We will do that.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Opo.
So
Senator?
if you're, yes.
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 I'd like to respond with the suggestions of Senator Angara that we will assist the painting at Pasig
Yes.
River, no? Similar to Manila through our Arts in Public Space program po. So we will help them po.
Yeah. Kindly get in touch with the MMDA if you need assistance to meet with them. Just let us know, my office or Senator Angara, so we can put you together. All right.
Yes, sir.
So
Thank you po.
We've discussed all the agencies. All of them have presented. I do not see any other senator who is raising their hand. So with no more questions, the budget of DAP, NCCA, National Library, National Archives, Commission on Filipino Language, and the Cultural Center of the Philippines are deemed submitted to plenary, subject to our discussion and the submission of documents and data requested by the senators. The budget of NHCP is deferred, subject to the submission and of any documentary requests or discussion clarifications needed by Senator Marcos. On that note, this hearing is suspended. Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation. Please stay safe.
Thanks, Chair Pia. Thank you.